Chapter 2472, page 1/1. Translator, Atlas Studios editor. Atlas Studios, the photographer, turned around and secretly wiped the blood from his nose. He raised his camera and pointed it at Yunjian, C.E., the little girl, and the little guy. Yunjian obediently sat on C.E.'s lap. She hugged the little girl and looked at the camera. Yunjian and C.E. didn't know much about photography, so Yunjian and C.E. only thought that the photographer would be able to take a good picture of their family. If Yunjian and C.E. could see through the photographer's thoughts, the photography shop would probably not be able to continue operating. It would be bombarded by cannons every second. Fortunately, Yunjian and C.E. didn't know what the photographer was thinking. Using this opportunity, the photographer pressed the shutter and took a series of photos. Mama, 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 mama. The little girl who was being hugged by Yunjian seemed very excited. She didn't sit obediently on Yunjian's lap at all. Instead, she stood on Yunjian's lap and jumped up and down. Yunjian supported the little girl's waist so that she wouldn't fall down. The little guy at the side was being held by C.E. by the corner of his shirt. He stared blankly at C.E. He was only 5.5 months old, but his handsome face already had an outline. He stared blankly at Yunjian, then at C.E. Finally, his gaze locked onto the little girl who was being doted on by Yunjian. In the end, the little guy treated himself like a swallow and was being held in the air. He swung his arms and legs up and down excitedly. Of the two little guys, one was jumping up and down on Yunjian's lap and calling out "Mama" loudly. The other was being held in C.E.'s hand and was flying up like a swallow, flapping its wings. Yunjian was amused by the two restless little guys. She didn't know that C.E.'s face had already darkened to the extreme at this moment. The two restless fellows kept moving around, especially the little girl who was jumping up and down on Yunjian's lap. Yunjian was still sitting on C.E.'s lap. Yunjian was fine, but C.E. was the one who suffered. That rubbing and scrubbing was really torturous. Good. Don't move, that's it. What a great photo. Oh my God. I've never taken such a great photo in all my years of photography. The photographer exclaimed as he pressed the shutter. Inside the camera, the four of them acted very naturally when the photographer pressed the shutter. C.E.'s face was a little gloomy, but in the photo, with her back view, there was a sense of warmth mixed in. After taking a full set of family photos, Yunjian and C.E. brought the children to the entrance of Longmen City's police station. Before they left, Yunjian had already picked out names for the little girl and the child. Siyuan, C.E. The former was the little girl's name, while the latter was the child's name. There was no special meaning to it. It was just that these were the words that caught Yunjian's attention at first glance among the pile of names. After registering the two children, Yunjian carried the little girl while C.E. carried the child to the nearby food street. The food street was very lively at night, with many people coming and going. Just as they arrived, the little girl stretched her neck and body forward desperately. Mama, yaya. The little girl pointed at a person who was selling cotton candy not far away. He was even holding a bunch of cotton candy in his hand. She squeaked and squeaked. When Yunjian saw that the little girl and the child were drooling, she bought cotton candy made from granulated sugar for each of them. Despite her young age, the little girl passed the cotton candy to Yunjian after taking a bite out of it. Yunjian's heart warmed as she took a bite. The little girl giggled and passed the cotton candy that Yunjian had bitten to C.E.'s mouth. Papa, yaya. Translator, Henyi Translations editor, Henyi Translations. Chapter 2473, page 1/1. Children who were close to 6 months old were completely different from newborns. Most 6-month-old children could eat soft things that didn't need to be chewed on. Naturally, the little girl and the little guy couldn't eat too much cotton candy. After all, children were not fully developed yet. However, Yunjian didn't have much experience. As long as it wasn't hard stuff, Yunjian would feed the little girl and the little guy whatever they wanted. Although the little girl was still young, she already understood the principle of sharing food with her parents. As a matter of fact, the little girl couldn't bear to lick the cotton candy that Yunjian had eaten before, so she fed it to Ce. She even made babbling noises. It was obvious that she wanted Ce to eat the cotton candy that Yunjian had eaten before. The little girl and the little guy were smarter than expected. They already knew how to say Papa, even though they didn't pronounce it properly. They were much smarter than the average baby. However, just as the little girl placed the cotton candy in front of Ce's mouth, she wanted Ce to take a bite. The little guy also placed his own cotton candy in front of Ce's mouth expressionlessly and said softly, "Yeah." He was probably telling Ce to eat his cotton candy. However, the little guy's expectations were completely dashed when Ce took a bite of the cotton candy that the little girl had passed to him. Ce, he didn't even take a bite of the cotton candy that the little guy had passed to him. Ce didn't like sweets. The little guy seemed to be angered by Ce. He snorted twice, but it didn't sound like he was angry. He retracted his short hands and hugged the cotton candy in his arms. He looked like he was saying, "Bad daddy won't let daddy eat my cotton candy." Unfortunately, the little guy didn't know that cotton candy was soft. When he hugged it, the originally bulging cotton candy deflated like a balloon and stuck to the little guy's body. Ha! Seeing the cotton candy instantly deflate and stick to the little girl's body, the little girl giggled. Yunjian, on the other hand, was sweating profusely. It was time to wash the little fellow's clothes again. But for Yunjian, it wasn't a headache, but a sense of warmth. The engagement party was set to be held after the New Year, and there were still 5 or 6 days left before New Year's Eve. Before New Year's Eve, most of the people who worked outside the province to earn money had already returned to the countryside. During the Lunar New Year, the villages in Longmen City were usually livelier than the cities, as everyone had returned to their villages to celebrate the New Year. Before preparing for the New Year, Yunjian once again set off for Wei Province. Shinsini had just called her and told her that she could be discharged today. Yunjian took an hour-and-a-half flight to Wei Province's Pan City. After another half an hour of driving, she arrived at Pan City People's Hospital. Today was the day she and Shinsini had agreed to pick up Shinsini from the hospital and return to Longmen City. Shinsini had injured her head a long time ago. Although Yunjian had cured her back then, it was still very inconvenient for her to do many things due to the severity of the injury. Like this time when she drank until her stomach bled, Shinsini's headache was acting up again. In spite of it, she could be discharged now. When Yunjian passed by the hospital's entrance, she suddenly heard a commotion not far away. She walked into the hospital without paying much attention to it. In a place like the hospital, it was not uncommon for the patient's family to come to the doctor's door to protest if something happened. When she arrived at Shinsini's ward, there was no one in sight. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. A nurse came in, and when she saw Yunjian, she spoke to Yunjian as if she had seen her savior. "You're the family of the patient who used to stay here, aren't you? Go outside and take a look. There's a woman leading a group of people to drag the patient outside. The scene is crowded with people. Go and persuade them quickly. The patient can't be tortured like this." Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2474. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Sigh, I really don't know what kind of deep hatred there is. She actually grabbed the patient's head and dragged her out. Nurses like us tried to stop her, but were slapped. I heard that the person has some background. No one dares to call the police. Let's go and take a look. This female patient's head has been severely injured before. If it is stimulated again, I'm afraid her life will be in danger. The female nurse said to Yunjian very kindly. The female nurse was originally in charge of taking care of Shinsini. She told Shinsini that she could leave the hospital immediately. The female nurse remembered that there was a man by Shinsini's side. He had been by her side for a few days. He didn't even sleep at night, afraid that something would happen to Shinsini. In the end, the man was called out by Shinsini. The female nurse didn't know what to do either. In the end, when she could leave the hospital, Shinsini told her that she was waiting for a friend. When this friend arrived, she could leave the hospital. The female nurse nodded. Later on, a beautiful woman in luxurious clothes suddenly rushed into the hospital. This beautiful woman had a large group of bodyguards by her side. Without any explanation, they dragged Shinsini out. Even the people who went to dissuade him later suffered a calamity and were slapped. Someone wanted to call the police, but was stopped. They said that this beautiful woman was the wife of the richest man in Wei province. They couldn't afford to offend her. The people around naturally didn't want to get involved in this matter, so they all retreated. After all, this matter had nothing to do with them. Who would be so free to poke their noses into other people's business? They might even get into trouble. This female nurse also didn't want to be nosy. However, when she saw Yun Jian, she remembered that Chun Sini said that she was waiting for a friend. Thus, she hurried over to tell Yun Jian about this matter. Don't blame this female nurse for not helping Chun Sini. This was human nature. If you were in trouble, who would be willing to do something that didn't benefit you? This female nurse was already very kind to tell Yun Jian about this matter when she saw her. After hearing this female nurse's words, Yun Jian's face instantly turned cold. In the next second, she disappeared from the female nurse's sight. Within a minute, Yun Jian arrived at the scene of the commotion from the hospital ward. When she arrived at the scene, Yun Jian saw that the surrounding people who were watching the show had formed a circle. She pushed the crowd and arrived at the center of the crowd. She saw Lu Finfin's face Chun Sini. Chun Sini. Chen's. Chun Sini translation. Was Lu Finfin. Was. Chun Sini who had her head was Chun Sini. Zhang Xiaofeng must have gone out. Chapter 2475. Yun Jian's kick had directly shattered Lu Finfin's neck bone. That kick had caused Lu Finfin's head to tilt. Lu Finfin could no longer feel the sharp pain that came out of nowhere. At this moment, Lu Finfin had been kicked to the ground by Yun Jian's high kick, and the bones in her neck had also cracked. When they saw the person standing in front of them, they were stunned. It was Yun Jian, who had fluently translated the words on the rocks like an expert in the purple cherry garden, especially Su'er, Suya, and Ling. To Su'er, Suya, and Ling, Yun Jian's actions that day seemed like she was deliberately showing off, but in fact, she didn't know anything at all. Especially in the eyes of Su'er, Suya, and Ling, Yun Jian was no different from a young girl. But Yun Jian's kick had completely distorted everyone's view of Yun Jian. That kick, which was full of strength, had directly caused Lu Finfin's head to tilt. This scene caused everyone's breathing to quicken. Oh my God, she's going to kill someone. Someone exclaimed in shock. At this moment, Yun Jian had already kicked all the bodyguards who had attacked Chun Sini to the ground. Chun Sini's head was already in a state where it couldn't take any more damage, and now she was dizzy. Yun Jian helped her to the side. At this moment, someone immediately carried a stretcher to save Lu Finfin. After all, Lu Finfin was the wife of the richest man in Wei province. Nothing must happen to her. Whoever dares to save her, I'll kill them today. After helping Chun Sini to the side, Yun Jian slowly stood up. Under the black bangs, a pair of sharp eyes reflected a frightening, murderous intent. Everyone present was shocked by Yun Jian's gaze. And what made everyone flinch was the butterfly knife that suddenly appeared in Yun Jian's hand. Killing people is illegal. You're a young girl. You probably couldn't even bear to step on an ant. Quickly put down the knife and don't get agitated. Don't let your emotions affect your decisions. Su'er furrowed her brows and walked up to Yun Jian, speaking to Yun Jian in a manly tone. That's right. A little girl like you should be the kind of girl who would feel sorry for killing chicken. Isn't your friend all right? Hurry up and put down the knife. Ling also spoke. Suya, on the other hand, looked at Yun Jian with an indifferent expression. Her eyes seemed to be saying that even if Yun Jian did not dare to make a move, she would not dare to. However, just as everyone was thinking this, Yun Jian's figure had already arrived in front of Lu Finfin. Lu Finfin couldn't move her head, but she could only watch as Yun Jian walked towards her. Just as Yun Jian was about to make a move, suddenly, a figure jumped down from the third floor of the hospital. By the time everyone reacted, an enchanting woman had appeared in front of everyone. Who was this person? Everyone was shocked when they saw this. Just as everyone was puzzled, this enchanting woman walked up to Yun Jian. She walked up to Yun Jian in front of everyone present. The person who came was Snake. Lizard. After Snake, Lizard arrived, a group of people with weapons suddenly rushed in from the periphery. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She was the one who called Snake. Lizard here. Seeing this, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. However, she did not expect Snake, Lizard to arrive at this time. Su Er and the others were all stunned when they saw this scene. These people with weapons were not at the same level as Lu Fenfen's bodyguards. Who are these people? Someone in the crowd said in fear. Su Er, Su Ya, Ling, and Lu Fenfen, who was lying on the ground and still conscious, all heaved a sigh of relief. Then, they looked at Yun Jian. Could it be that this group of people with weapons were here for Yun Jian? This was impossible. Could it be that they are all here for you? Su Er looked at Yun Jian in shock and said. However, just after Su Er said this, under everyone's incredulous eyes, Yun Jian took the latest pistol from Snake, Lizard, and pointed it at Lu Fenfen and the group of bodyguards on the ground. She said to Snake, Lizard in public, kill them all. Chapter 2476, page 1/1. The 4 words of command suddenly rang out. The words were so cold that it caused everyone present to suddenly tremble, and a wave of shock flashed through the hearts of everyone present. Kill them all? Who did she want to kill? Everyone's eyes widened, and their faces turned green and purple. What are you trying to do? Are you really going to order people to kill them? Su Er saw that the group of armed men had hidden their weapons after hearing Yun Jian's words. She immediately took out a dagger and walked towards Lu Fenfen and her bodyguard. He was so scared that his face trembled, but due to his manly spirit, he still rushed forward and blocked the group of armed men as he spoke to Yun Jian. You guys, have you been brainwashed by her? You actually dare to bring guns with you. That's illegal. Suya saw that Lu Fenfen was in danger, and she was so scared that her feet seemed to be glued to them. She couldn't take a step forward, but she still exclaimed to Yun Jian, I've changed so many girlfriends, but I've never seen such an interesting woman. This woman, she's hot and spicy. In contrast to Su Er and Su Ya's shock, the man who had been called Ling from the start rubbed his chin. He lowered his eyes and continued speaking. The man who was called Ling was Han Jin Ling. Han Jin Ling was of mixed Mongolian and Mongolian descent, and there was no difference in appearance between Mongolian and Mongolian. Hence, from Han Jin Ling's appearance, one couldn't tell that he was of mixed Mongolian descent. Han Jin Ling had just returned from overseas. Before he went to university, he had been studying in Mongolian. He was the son of a well-known tycoon in Mongolian, and was also the heir to $1 billion fortune. It was because of this that one could tell from Han Jin Ling's words and actions that he was high and mighty. To Han Jin Ling, Lu Fenfen's life was not important. But to Suya and Su Er, it was important. You dare to kill me. I'm the wife of the richest man in Wei province. If you dare to attack me, you will also die. Not only will you die, even your family and friends will be finished. If you apologize to me right now, kneel down, and kowtow to me 3 times in public, I can reduce your prison sentence by a few years. Otherwise, you can wait for my lawyer's letter and spend the rest of your life in prison. Lu Fenfen's neck had been bent by Yun Jian's kick. She was paralyzed on the ground and could not move because the pain was unbearable. However, Lu Fenfen did not faint. At this moment, Lu Fenfen even had the intention to kill Yun Jian, but she still did not have the self-awareness that she was in danger. Instead, she used her high status to continue to be arrogant in front of Yun Jian. Rich people all had their own private lawyers. Once they felt wronged, they would use the loopholes in the law to protect their rights. In the past, when ordinary people scolded Lu Fenfen would take advantage of the loophole and say that the other party was personally attacking her, forcing the other party to kneel and beg for mercy. Ordinary people could not afford to hire their own lawyers to protect their rights. How could they fight against the rich? If they did not go to Lu Fenfen in private and beg for mercy, it would not be as simple as losing their dignity. This time, Lu Fenfen's neck had been bent by Yun Jian's kick. Naturally, she would not let Yun Jian off so easily. Lu Fenfen had thought that Yun Jian was afraid of going to jail as well, which was why she spoke up aggressively. Su Er, Su Ya, Han Jinling, and everyone else present heaved a sigh of relief after hearing Lu Fenfen's words. After Lu Fenfen's words, Yun Jian would definitely stop out of fear. However, just as everyone present thought so, Yun Jian suddenly waved her hand. The surrounding subordinates, who were armed with light weapons and daggers, all retreated. Fortunately, Auntie is quick-witted. Otherwise, it would have caused a big problem. Su'er heaved a sigh of relief and said, Yun Jian would definitely not dare to attack again. Just as everyone was thinking this, they saw that Yun Jian had already walked toward Lu Fenfen. She walked up to Lu Fenfen and raised her foot to step on Lu Fenfen's back. That foot hurt so much that Lu Fenfen lifted her body. Yun Jian grabbed Lu Fenfen's neatly combed hair and pulled up her scalp. If she used any more force, her scalp would be torn off. Maintaining her merciless action, Yun Jian's chilling voice rang out at the same time. Her words sent chills down the spines of those who thought that Yun Jian was going to stop there. Oh, is that so? Then you probably don't know that I have received more than 10,000 lawyers' letters in my life suing me for murder. And those who sue me are now lying in their coffins. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2477, page 1/1. Yun Jian's words were like the scene of a ghost in a horror movie. It suddenly resounded, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. It was even more frightening than the words, "Kill them all." This line of words, coming out of Yun Jian's mouth, was more terrifying than any horror movie. Those words were indifferent, but they made people unable to ignore them. It was like a ballet that struck everyone's hearts, especially Lu Fenfen, who was sure that Yun Jian would be like those people she met before, who were scared to the point of kneeling and begging for mercy when she said she would send her a lawyer's letter, was so scared that they hurriedly apologized to her. At this moment, her eyes widened, and her face was stunned. In Lu Fenfen's subconscious mind, ordinary people would be scared witless when they heard her say she would send a lawyer's letter to sue the other party. Even if the other party was reasonable, the other party did not have money. People who did not have money could not even afford a good lawyer to defend themselves, let alone offend a rich person. But the meaning behind Yun Jian's words was extremely terrifying. That meant she often kill people. Yun Jian's words directly scared Lu Fenfen to the point that her face turned pale. However, it was not only Lu Fenfen. Su Yu, Su Ya, and Han Jinling, who thought that Lu Fenfen's words had stunned Yun Jian, were so scared that their faces turned green and purple. They could not recover for a long time. Then, according to what you said, you often kill people? After the shock, Han Jinling was the first to react. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Yun Jian with an expression that said he had seen through her very clearly. Han Jinling was also a handsome guy who looked so handsome that girls passing by would stop in their tracks. Han Jinling, who was of mixed Chinese descent, used to stay in Country H, and Han Jinling even participated in Country H's male singing group's training. At that time, he even became a popular male singer in the entertainment industry. But as a rich second-generation heir, Han Jinling had everything he wanted. When he couldn't find any novelty in the entertainment industry, he directly left the industry. Of course, the fact that Han Jinling was able to enter the entertainment industry and become a popular male singer meant that his looks were not bad. Han Jinling originally thought that Yun Jian would respond to him, but to his surprise, Yun Jian let go of Lu Fenfen's hair, stepped on Lu Fenfen's back with one foot, and said coldly, "Last time in the Purple Cherry Garden, I didn't kill you. You should thank your son for giving you a chance. Today, you actually dare to touch my people again. In that case, I'll give you face again and personally send you to your death." What happened in Wei Province's Pan City did not alarm the Pan City police station. Meanwhile, in Longmen City, Yeji was staying at Qin Yuru's house. There were many rooms in Qin Yuru's house. Yeji also had her own room. Today, Qin Yuru, Xiao Yunju, the little fellow, and the girl had all gone out. See, he was not in Longmen City. Yeji was home alone. She was sitting on the bed in her room. She still remembered her time in Xinjiang town when she was still the cowardly Yun Jian. She, her brother, Yun Yi, and her mother, Qin Yuru, lived in Xinjiang town. Although they did not lead a good life, it was still a heartwarming one. Now that she could come back, she was no longer a puppet. It was all thanks to Yun Jian. Thinking about it, Yeji smiled. Just as she smiled, Yeji saw a figure reflected in the window. The figure was standing behind her. Turning around, Yeji suddenly saw Yuan Xing. How can you just enter my room like that? Get out! Yeji shouted when she saw Yuan Xing. She was still wearing very thin clothes, and her underwear was faintly discernible. In spite of it, Yuan Xing's gaze was fixed on Yeji. Without saying a word, he walked over and grabbed Yeji's hand, pulling her out. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Chapter 2478. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. It was a fact that Yi Ji was timid and weak. This had never changed before and after her rebirth. However, this was also applied to people. In front of Yuan Xing, Yi Ji was not afraid of him at all. But in front of other people, she probably wouldn't even dare to speak loudly. This might be because Yuan Xing had been by her side since her rebirth, and they had known each other for 4 years. Of course, before that, Yuan Xing had never helped her. Even if she was beaten up, he would not help her. There was no sense of closeness between them. Come with me. Yuan Lin did not say anything else. That was all he said. Where are we going? Let go. Let go. I'm not dressed yet. Yi Ji wanted to pull her hand back from Yuan Xing's grasp. Yi Ji was sitting on the bed to change her clothes because she had to go to Qin Yu's house at night, but her mind wandered when she was changing as she thought about her past. Who would have thought that Yuan Xing would suddenly appear? Did he not say that he would not look for her in the future because he could not see Yun Jian and see Yi? Yi Ji's eyes teared up when she saw Yuan Jin's death grip on her hand. Just as she was about to be dragged out of the room by Yuan Jin, she mustered up her courage and reached out to grab the door. She half-squatted and refused to go out no matter what. I want to wait for Sis Yun Jian to come back. I won't go with you. If you take me away, Sis Yun Jian won't let you go. She's the best to me. She's the best to me in the whole world. Yi Ji hugged the door tightly and yelled at Yuan Xing. Hearing Yi Ji say that Yun Jian treated her the best in the world, a glint flickered in Yuan Jin's eyes. In that second, he extended his large palm to pry Yi Ji's fingers off the door one by one and spoke expressionlessly. You have to go. There was no room for negotiation. The envelope that Yun Jian took from Snake. Lizard was actually sent by Yuan Xing to the Kosha mercenaries. The Kosha mercenaries would then pass the envelope to Snake. Lizard, who would personally deliver it to Yun Jian. There was something written on the envelope that would be very helpful to Yun Jian. Of course, there was no such thing as a free lunch. Yuan Xing had told Yun Jian such an important thing directly because he had a request. He wanted Yi Ji. As for whether Yun Jian and Yi Ji were willing or not, Yuan Xing, he had already delivered the letter. Even if Yun Jian was not, he was going to take her away. Wei Province's Pan City Yun Jian was stepping on Lu Finfinchi's back, Lu's hair. As Yun Jian, the butterfly translation, the translation of Lin Yun translation. When they, Lu translation, translation Y. Just as the butterfly knife sank into Lu Finfin's neck and was about to send Lu Finfin on her way, Snake. Lizard suddenly walked to Yun Jian. Snake. Lizard, who was dressed in black tights and had an enchanting figure, squatted down and whispered something in Yun Jian's ear. Yun Jian's eyes narrowed, and she stopped in time. I've taken care of it. Turning around, Yun Jian told her subordinates who were armed and went to Chinsini. Take her to the ward and come meet me immediately, Yun Jian told Snake. Lizard. She did not know where Zhang Xiaofeng had been called to by Chun Sini, but he had not returned yet. Jian, I'm fine. I can walk back myself. Go quickly if you have something to do. Chun Sini caressed her head and told Yun Jian. Be a good girl. Yun Jian did not give Chun Sini a chance to retort. By then, Yun Jian had torn the letter Yuan Xing gave her shreds in front of everyone, and left with her other subordinates who were armed with light weapons. No one dared to stop them. "I'll go take a look." Su'er followed with a frown. "I'll go too." Han Jinling followed them when he saw them. When Suya and the others saw this, they followed him curiously. Translator, Tim, editor, Globeglotter. Chapter 2479. The contents of the envelope were indeed very important to Yun Jian. Because of this, Yun Jian did not even have time to give Lu Finfin the final blow. She turned and left. Of course, this could be considered as saving Lu Finfin's life. It was not a coincidence that Snake, Lizard, and her subordinates with light weapons could come to Wei Province's Pan City. It was Yun Jian who ordered them to come over. At that time, Yun Jian was walking in front, followed by a few subordinates with light weapons. The group walked forward. After Su'er asked Lu Finfin's bodyguards to take Lu Finfin away, she also followed Yun Jian's footsteps and chased after them. Suya, Han Jinling, and a few other rich second-generation heirs also followed behind. Su'er followed because he did not want to see Yun Jian go astray. He thought that Yun Jian had joined some gang, which was why so many people were willing to listen to her. This group of people even had guns in their hands. Of course, other than guns, Su'er also knew that Yun Jian and this group of people who had joined a gang would not be able to take out anything else. They chased all the way to the entrance of the purple cherry garden. Wait! Su'er was the first to run up. He blocked in front of Yun Jian and said to Yun Jian, "I think you should leave the gang as soon as possible. It's not a place for a girl like you to stay." Yun Jian glanced at Su'er and walked around Su'er to enter the purple cherry garden. "My brother is talking to you. You should at least listen to him. What you're doing is wrong. You're a good girl. Why are you learning to be the boss of a gang? I know that ordinary people like you all want to become rich second-generation heirs like us. But this is your life. You can't change it, so you join some gang? I am doing this for your own good." Suya saw that her brother's words were ignored by Yun Jian, so she quickly helped to speak up. However, before Suya could finish her sentence, Yun Jian suddenly glanced at her from the corner of her eyes. That cold, murderous gaze made Suya shiver and quickly change her words. "Little girl, they're right. I'm a very reasonable person. Tell me, did you join the gang because you had some difficulties? Don't look at me like this. I've been in a gang before, so I know what you guys do. If you're willing, follow me. Although I can't marry you, I could take care of you for the rest of your life." A man in his 20s, who was so fat that his clothes were about to burst, touched his stomach and said to Yun Jian. After saying this, the fat man, who was obviously a rich second-generation heir, looked at Yun Jian and asked, "Little girl, I think you're still a virgin, right? Even if you're not a virgin, I don't mind. Anyway, I'm not going to take you as my wife." Everyone thought that Yun Jian was forced to join a gang and work in the black market. She was actually not that capable. Just as everyone thought so, Snake, Lizard, who had just returned from scouting, told Yun Jian, "Sister Jian, it's really the case. Someone stole the rocks in Purple Cherry Garden. There are ambushes everywhere. We can only barge in if we want to go in." Su'er and the others were stunned when they heard what Snake, Lizard said. "Someone stole the rocks in Purple Cherry Garden? Let's call the police." The rich second-generation heir who said he wanted to keep Yun Jian as a sugar baby was spooked when he heard what Snake, Lizard said. Su'er, Suya, and the others realized that something was off as well. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian would back down, she suddenly spoke to Snake, Lizard, right in front of everyone's dumbfounded and horrified expressions. "Bring me my shoulder-mounted rocket launcher. Even if I have to flatten Purple Cherry Garden today, I won't let them move a single piece of rock." Chapter 2480. Yun Jian had come to Purple Cherry Garden because the letter Yuan Xin gave her mentioned that the mysterious man would send his men to steal the rocks left behind by Deity Continent's creator, Xingfeng. The mysterious man had forcefully separated his body from his soul back then, and his soul had successfully escaped. He did not have the ability to come here again for the time being. In spite of it, the mysterious man had lived for so long and had been planning for so many years. Naturally, he had many capable subordinates like Yun Jian. The men who were sent to Purple Cherry Garden to steal the rocks today were personally dispatched by the mysterious man's capable subordinates. As soon as Yun Jian and the others entered Purple Cherry Garden's entrance, they would be ambushed by the mysterious man's men who had been lying in ambush all around. According to Yuan Xian's letter, the mysterious man's men were equipped with the latest and most powerful weapons. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to break through. Sister Jian, your shoulder-mounted rocket launcher needs another 10 minutes to arrive, Snake. Lizard informed Yun Jian after contacting the person in charge of the weapons transfer after hearing what Yun Jian said. Yun Jian nodded. Su Yu, Su Ya, Han Jinling, and the other rich second-generation heirs were still in a daze after Snake. Lizard said that. What? You know how to use a rocket launcher? No, how did you? Why you? The man who was so fat that his clothes were about to burst and who had claimed to be Yun Jian's sugar baby was stunned when he heard Yun Jian and Snake. Lizard's conversation. Not only was the plump, rich second-generation heirloom flabbergasted, even Su Yu, Su Ya, Han Jinling, and the others were stunned. When they recovered, Su Yu was the first to speak to Yun Jian in a trembling voice. It's illegal for someone to steal an antique passed down from generations in Purple Cherry Garden, but the higher-ups will send someone to deal with it. You're neither from the police nor from the special forces. If I'm not wrong, the people you're talking about who came to steal the rocks should all be criminals. They have guns and ammunition in their hands. Even if you have guns in your hands, how are you going to compete with those who have been doing this for years? It's better not to get involved in this matter. Su'er spoke to Yun Jian in the best tone she could think of. Su'er didn't know what was wrong with her. As long as he thought about how an extraordinary girl like Yun Jian would die in the Purple Cherry Garden, he felt that he had to stop her. Brother, why do you care about her? Since she thinks she's so powerful, then let her die here. Before Suya could finish her sentence, the sound of a police siren suddenly rang out. Not long after, 3 police cars stopped not far away. A middle-aged man got out of one of the police cars. After the middle-aged man got out of the car, he saw that Yun Jian and the others were still standing in such a dangerous area. He quickly rushed forward and shouted to Yun Jian and the others as he walked. Little girl, leave quickly. We've received reports from nearby residents that a group of criminals with guns has appeared in the Purple Cherry Garden. If you continue to stay here, you'll be in danger. Please leave quickly. The middle-aged man had also risked his life to come and tell Yun Jian and the others to leave. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, Su'er, Su Ya, and the others once again realized the danger they were in. Their hearts trembled again. Even the police were here. Yun Jian would definitely listen and leave obediently. The farce was over. That was what everyone present thought. Su'er, Su Ya, Han Jinling, and the others had already turned and walked away from the Purple Cherry Garden's entrance. It was too dangerous here. They thought that Yun Jian would also turn and leave after hearing the middle-aged man's words. However, just as everyone thought so, Yun Jian suddenly took out a large stack of documents from her pocket the moment Su'er and the others turned around. Then, she picked out one document from the stack and showed it to the middle-aged man and the other police officers. In the next second, just as everyone was shocked that Yun Jian could take out so many documents at such a young age, the words that made everyone's jaws drop suddenly rang out and entered everyone's ears. Zhe Province's 3rd Military Region's Special Forces member, serial number 006, God of Killing. Leave this group of criminals to me alone. I'm enough to eliminate them. M. Chapter 2481. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Yun Jian's Identity. Page 1/1. Leave this group of criminals to me alone. I'm more than enough to wipe them out. Yun Jian's flat voice resounded throughout the entire venue. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was shocked into a daze. Everyone was shocked by Yun Jian's simple words. This young girl, who didn't even look like she was 20 years old, actually, a member of the Special Forces? Special Forces. That wasn't a place that any ordinary person could enter. Whether it was physical fitness or personal strength, they had to reach the standard to be able to reach the threshold of the Special Forces. and Yun Jian. Su'er, Suya, Han Jinling, and the others originally thought that Yun Jian was just an ordinary female university student. After all, Yun Jian gave everyone the impression that she was a friend of a mistress who wanted to steal Suya's fiancé. But what they never expected was that the thick-skinned mistress who wanted to steal Suya's fiancé's friend, Yun Jian, actually had such a background. Killing God? Why does this name sound so familiar? Just as Su'er, Suya, and the others were shocked by Yun Jian's identity as a Special Forces member, the middle-aged man had already touched his chin and was deep in thought. Familiar? Uncle Policeman. Even if she's a Special Forces member, it's just a nameless one. She probably clashed with the name of a big shot. Suya was not stupid. Just by the fact that Yun Jian wanted to steal her fiancé's friend, she already hated Yun Jian. Suya's words were full of hostility. Hearing Suya's words, Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. She quietly hid all her documents back in her pocket and did not say a word. Snake, Lizard, and Yun Jian's other subordinates stood at the side. The weapon that Yun Jian wanted would still take 10 minutes to arrive at the scene. So Yun Jian stood there and did not move. After the middle-aged man got out of the police car, his subordinates immediately followed behind him. After thinking for a long time, the middle-aged man touched his head and reached out to Yun Jian. Hello, little girl. I'm from the nearby police station. I'm the leader of the team after receiving the news. Everyone calls me Old Zhang. You can call me that too. Old Zhang reached out to Yun Jian, but did not get a handshake. Yun Jian. She did not reach out her hand, but introduced herself to Old Zhang. Sorry, I'm not used to shaking hands. Yun Jian, after she finished her introduction, she added another sentence. Haha, it's fine. It's a young girl. I understand. Old Zhang was a straightforward person. That's right. It's dangerous to stand here. Let's move further away. Old Zhang said, not a few military jeeps from as his words. After the vehicles, the translation is translation. The Yunz's translation Su'er, Suya, Han Jinling, and the others' eyes lit up. Even if Yun Jian took out the document that could prove her identity, Su'er and the others did not believe that Yun Jian had the ability to take care of the criminals in the Purple Cherry Garden alone. After the group of fully armed Special Forces soldiers came over, the leader, who was about the same age as Old Zhang, stood in front of everyone. He had the handsome and heroic bearing of a soldier. Old Zhang, what are you waiting for? Take these young people and leave. Obviously, the leader of the Special Forces soldiers knew Old Zhang. Haha, don't panic. This little girl is a member of the province's 3rd Military Region's Special Forces team. Number 006, codename Killing God. Old Zhang said to the leader of the Special Forces soldiers. The leader of the Special Forces soldiers was called Wen Jingyu. He was a veteran and knew Old Zhang. When Wen Jingyu heard Old Zhang's words, Su'er and the others thought that Wen Jingyu would be shocked that Yun Jian was a Special Forces soldier at such a young age. However, Wen Jingyu's expression changed. His usually expressionless face revealed a hint of surprise. Team Monarch's Killing God. If I remember correctly, you're the daughter of the former 3rd Military Region's Special Forces team leader, Junjian? Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2482. Gu Yunjian's status was not low. Before his retirement, Gu Yunjian's battle record was also an object of admiration for many. He was a hero. Wen Jingyu had heard of Yun Jian long ago, but he did not expect to meet her here. Of course, Wen Jingyu's face did not show much surprise or astonishment. When he heard about Yun Jian's identity, he was only stunned for a moment before laughing out loud. He looked at Yun Jian as if she was an old acquaintance and said, I've met Gu Junjian once before. He's a soldier full of righteousness. I admire him a lot. I didn't expect to meet his daughter here, and his daughter is the equally revered Team Monarch's slashing god. It's a pleasure to meet you. Wen Jingyu looked excited. Wen Jingyu's words were heard by Su'er, Suya, Han Jinling, and the others. The sudden surge of emotions caused Su'er, Su-er, Han Jinling, and the others to tremble. Yun Jian had such a background. Moreover, from Wen Jingyu's tone, Yun Jian was also a very important person in the Special Forces team. Su-er and the others were shocked by his words. They widened their eyes and stared at Yun Jian, especially the fat man who said he wanted to keep Yun Jian as a sugar baby. He was so shocked that his face turned green and purple. You guys go investigate the area first. When the time is right, we'll attack. Of course, Wen Jingyu was not there to reminisce. After he said that to Yun Jian, he smiled at Yun Jian before turning to speak to his team members. Wen Jingyu was the captain, so his team members were about to disperse and investigate the area before making plans to infiltrate the Purple Cherry Garden. There's no need to investigate. My men have already investigated all the hiding spots and their plans in the Purple Cherry Garden. They won't be able to move those huge rocks in an hour. Right after Wen Jingyu said that, Yun Jian spoke before Wen Jingyu's team members were about to disperse. Before the special forces infiltrated a place, it was necessary for them to investigate the scene. And investigating the crime scene was also very likely to cost one's life. After Yun Jian finished speaking, Wen Jingyu immediately reacted. There's no need to check. Wen Jingyu chose to believe in Yun Jian. I'm enough here. However, since you're here, I'll deal with the aftermath after I enter the Purple Cherry Garden, Yun Jian said. Since Wen Jingyu and the others were here, they must have been deployed by the higher-ups to carry out a mission. After hearing Yun Jian's words, Wen Jingyu was stunned. He was stunned for a moment before he said, "Can you do it alone? It's too dangerous. Let's work together. I alone am enough. Working together will only drag me down." Although Yun Jian had a good impression of Wen Jingyu, she was still merciless when it came to such matters. Originally, they thought that the way Wen Jingyu and Yun Jian spoke was very friendly. However, after hearing Yun Jian's words, Su-er, Su-ya, and Han Jinling instantly felt that Yun Jian was deliberately destroying her relationship with Wen Jingyu. Is she stupid? A normal person would at least say something polite, right? Isn't Yun Jian afraid of offending people by speaking so bluntly? Just when Su-er, Su-ya, and the others thought that Wen Jingyu would frown unhappily because of Yun Jian's words, Wen Jingyu suddenly broke into a smile and said to Yun Jian in front of everyone, "Haha, okay, we'll do as you say. I've never doubted the strength of the god of slaughter, who can single-handedly capture countless spies in just a few days and still not subdue an international drug trafficker." Chapter 2483. Wen Jingyu had naturally heard about the news of Yun Jian arresting Milland, an international drug trafficker, in just a few days. Once the news broke out, it shocked the entire international community. What? You're saying that she single-handedly took down an international drug trafficker that countless spies could not? When Wen Jingyu's words fell, even Han Jinling, who had been calm all this time, revealed a shocked expression. Wen Jingyu was taken aback when he heard that. You guys aren't members of Team Monarch? Wen Jingyu glanced at Su-ya and the rest. They're not, Yun Jian replied. Clearly, Wen Jingyu thought that Su-ya and the rest were members of Team Monarch. Then leave the scene quickly. It's very dangerous here, Wen Jingyu said. If they were members of Team Monarch, they would be special forces and would have the ability to protect themselves. However, Su-ya and the rest were just ordinary people. It's too late. Just after Wen Jingyu said that, Yun Jian spoke again. What do you mean by that? Yun Jian's words sounded horrifying. Just as Yun Jian finished speaking, Su-ya lifted her head and looked at her with trembling eyes. Are you cursing us? Don't think that you're so great just because you're a Special Forces soldier. Didn't you say that your dad was some Special Forces captain? What kind of honor is this? Don't tell me that your dad used his connections to get you this. When Su-ya heard that Wen Jingyu was going to send them away, but Yun Jian suddenly said that it was too late. She panicked and thought that Yun Jian was cursing them. So she questioned Yun Jian in a very nasty tone. After all, Yun Jian was so young. It was impossible for her to have such a battle record. When Su-er, Han Jinling, and the rest heard Su-ya's words, they instantly turned to her side. Yun Jian's age did not match her battle record. Was she really that good? After all, she was just a friend of the mistress who wanted to steal Suya's fiancé. But just as Suya and Su'er thought so, Yun Jian took out a pair of white transparent gloves from somewhere. She skillfully put on the gloves and said to the snake, lizard behind her, "Have my things arrived?" "Sister Jian, we're here." Snake. Lizard nodded. Everyone was bewildered. At the same time, Yun Jian stretched out her hand behind her. Yun Jian inserted the two pistols on both sides of her waist and took out the latest shoulder-mounted rocket launcher, handed over by Snake. Lizard. Wan Jingyu's face froze when he saw the latest shoulder-mounted rocket launcher. He seemed to have realized what Yun Jian was going to do. After a moment of shock, he said, You're going to..." However, before Wan Jingyu could say anything, under the gazes of Su'er, Suya, Wan Jingyu, Old Zhang, and the others, Yun Jian grabbed the heavy rocket launcher with one hand and rushed into the purple cherry garden. Bang, 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 bang. Just as Yun Jian dashed into purple cherry garden, the sniper who stood at a high vantage point aimed at the garden's entrance fired a barrage of bullets at her. Just as all of this was happening, something that everyone present was horrified to the point that they would never be able to forget happened. Yun Jian dodged the barrage of bullets almost at the same time. In the next second, before anyone could react to it, she hoisted the shoulder-mounted rocket launcher on her shoulder and fired at her without even looking. The snipers who were 1,000 meters away fired a shot. The rocket launcher was like an automatic cannonball, blasting the group of snipers who were shooting at her. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2484. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. In just a few short seconds, shock and fear flashed through the hearts of everyone present. That perfect shot, it was as if she was a king walking on top of the world. She did not need anyone to guide her, nor did she need anyone to help her charge forward. Facing the group of snipers who were hiding at a sniping point a kilometer away, she was not afraid at all. She was like an emperor who ruled the world. She picked up her weapon and blasted the group of snipers accurately, without even needing a commander to direct the firing angle. In order to carry out a high-altitude bombing, the commander would need to stand to the side to check the wind speed, humidity, as well as the focus distance and the accurate direction. Only then would the shot be able to hit the target. What about Yun Jian? She actually used her own strength and did not even need the commander to help her check all the factors that would cause the shot to deviate from the hit point. She directly took the shot and charged forward. This was not the most shocking thing. The most shocking thing was that Yun Jian's shot had hit the snipers who were 1,000 meters away in the air with a precise distance without a millimeter deviation. The power of the shoulder-mounted rocket launcher was quite strong. That shot could directly fly 1,000 meters away in a second. Yun Jian's series of actions were completed in 3 seconds. 3 seconds later, Wan Jingyu, Old Zhang, Suyu, Suya, Han Jinling, and the others who were standing at the same spot all stared with their eyes wide open. They were so scared that they almost lost their minds. That group of snipers in the distance were all blown away by that shot of hers. Just how strong was she? And she's only a member of the Special Forces. How can she use such a high-tech weapon? While everyone was still in a daze, when Jingyu's voice rang out once again without warning. These words caused the surrounding people to be even more astonished and stunned. Wan Jingyu was the leader of this group of special forces who came to help. If even he said such words, then it meant that as a special forces member, he was not qualified to learn such high-tech things. Then where did Yun Jian learn to use this shoulder-mounted rocket launcher? And to be able to use every weapon with such dexterity and ease, playing with them with such ease. In this world, there is only one kind of person who is forced to learn all the weapons to the fullest. If not, then facing her would be death. And that kind of person's identity was Bang. While Suya's makeup was smudged from fright, Suyu, Han Jinling, and the plump man who claimed to be Yun Jian's sugar baby just now paled in fright. Yun Jian, who was standing not far away from them, suddenly held the shoulder-mounted rocket launcher in her hand and threw it to the ground. Everyone was shocked. Just when everyone did not know what Yun Jian's actions, they did not understand why she would throw such a valuable and powerful weapon to the ground. Yun suddenly in front of everyone's eyes, in front of the crowd. Inside the coat, there was a black skin-tight black bodysuit, and with it, beside her waist, there were two shiny silver pistols. There was also a bag of bullets tightly wrapped around the bandage in front of her abdomen. The outfit that perfectly complemented her figure had a visual resemblance to the special forces in the movies. This scene that suddenly flashed in front of everyone's eyes made their hearts tremble violently. But before everyone could react, they saw that Yun Jian had already walked forward slowly with her back facing everyone. She did not turn her head, but she left behind a word that made everyone's blood boil. Kill. Top reading website. M. Chapter 2485. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Kill was a word that could not be any simpler. However, in this blood-boiling scene, it was as if the Grim Reaper was calling out to all living beings, causing the string in everyone's heart to be pulled to the climax. Everyone was affected by this word. It was as if they were in a bloody battle of life and death, and the young girl in front of them, who was not even 20 years old, was the only way for them to survive. Brothers, these criminals dare to come to Z country and show off. Listen to my orders, attack. Wan Jingyu's great spirit as a soldier was completely ignited at this moment. He took the rifle from his back and held it in his hand as he gestured to his brothers. Everyone obeyed and waited for orders. Old Zhang, take these kids and leave this place quickly. Brothers, let's go. We're going to do something big today. When Jingyu turned his head and looked at old Zhang, then raised his hand and gestured. Before he finished speaking, Wan Jingyu led his men and followed Yun Jian into the purple cherry garden. At this time, Snake, Lizard's men were one step ahead of Wan Jingyu and the others, and they were the first to follow Yun Jian's footsteps. Seeing Yun Jian, Wan Jingyu and the others leave their field of vision, Su'er, Suya, Han Jinling, and the others were stunned for a long time. Brother, let's go back, Suya said to Su'er with a trembling voice. If you're scared, then go back yourself. Su'er clenched her fist and rushed into the purple cherry garden without waiting for old Zhang to react. This girl, seeing Su'er rush into the purple cherry garden, Han Jinling pressed his forehead. Not long after he said that, Han Jinling rushed into the purple cherry garden with Su'er. Come back. Come back. I'll go. Old Zhang could not stop them in time. By the time he reacted, Su'er and Han Jinling had already run far away. I'm telling you guys, you can't follow them anymore. You'll only cause trouble if you follow. You. Just as old Zhang said this, Suya harumphed and chased after Su'er and the others into the purple cherry garden. The fat man, as well as the few young people who had stayed behind with Suya and Su'er, had originally planned to retreat. But just as they were about to agree to leave this dangerous place as soon as possible, my son, an anxious voice sounded. The person who came was none other than Lu Finfin, whose chin had been kicked crooked by Yun Jian. Lu Finfin was kicked in the chin by Yun Jian and was lifted up to have her chin straightened. Just now, she had heard that someone had seen her son, Bo Wenxiu, appear in the purple cherry garden, and the purple cherry garden was now being invaded by a group of criminals. So after putting on the chin that wouldn't shift, Lu Finfin had her bodyguards escort her over to look for him. No matter how evil Lu Finfin was, a mother's love was selfless. She didn't even care about her own pain and ran over to find her son. Fatty Zhouda, quick, bring me to Wenxiu. Lu Finfin walked over and grabbed the fat man who was about to leave. Fatty Zhou was the name of the fat man who had said that he was keeping Yun Jian as a sugar baby. Auntie, Fatty Zhou was a little scared and didn't dare follow. Quick! Lu Finfin grabbed Fatty Zhou's arm and dragged him into the purple cherry garden, not giving him a chance to refute at all. The others who were good friends with Zhou Depeng all followed him. In the end, old Zhang's negotiation with Lu Finfin was fruitless, and he was even slapped by Lufinfin. She insisted on bringing people into the purple cherry garden, disregarding the lives of these people, just to find her precious son. Translator, Timothy_editor, Globlotter. Chapter 2486. Yunjian's kick just now had indeed caused Lufinfin to be bedridden for a few months. Of course, that was the case for normal people. Although Lufinfin was extremely selfish, all mothers were the same. Lufinfin, who loved her son dearly, could endure the excruciating pain. Of course, Lufinfin had already gotten someone to fix her crooked chin before she came. Although it was still painful, it was much better than when she had been kicked in the beginning. Yunjian, Snake, Lizard, and Wan Jingyu's group had already entered the purple cherry garden first. They were one step ahead of Lufinfin and the others. At the same time, Yunjian and the others had just arrived at the purple cherry garden. They were approaching the pile of rocks left behind by the creator of the deity continent, Xing Feng, that the mysterious man's subordinates wanted to attack. It was quiet all around, as if there was no one around. After entering the purple cherry garden, it was as if this place had never been invaded by criminals. Everything was as usual, except for the fact that this place was extremely quiet and there was not a single person around. Yunjian narrowed her eyes slightly. She reached out to tuck a handful of strands of hair beside her ear and gently licked the dark red arc of her lips. "Captain, why is there no one here? How could a place invaded by criminals be so quiet?" A special forces soldier following behind Wan Jingyu suddenly realized that something was amiss. He opened his mouth to break the initial silence and suddenly spoke up. "Shoo, stay alert at all times. Don't let your guard down." Wan Jingyu was indeed a veteran with higher seniority. He stretched his fingers and tightened his grip on the rifle in his hand as he spoke to his subordinates solemnly. Hearing this, the special forces soldier who had spoken up nodded silently and did not speak again. After Wan Jingyu finished speaking, Yunjian suddenly pointed silently behind a pile of rocks not far away. Hearing this, everyone moved forward. However, just as everyone was about to reach the back of the pile of target rocks, the sound of footsteps came from behind them. "Son, my son, son." This sudden female voice completely exposed Yunjian and the others' whereabouts. The owner of this voice was none other than Lufinfin. "Oh no, move!" Wan Jingyu shouted loudly. Hearing this, everyone hurriedly dodged to the side. Su Er, Su Ya, and Han Jinling, who had followed Yunjian and the others into the purple cherry garden before Lufinfin, were quite smart. They silently followed behind Yunjian and the others. Who would have thought that Lufinfin's voice would come from behind? Dash. At this moment, a series of machine gun shots rang out. Wan Jingyu frowned when he saw that Lufinfin and the others were exposed to the sniper rifle. His identity as a soldier made him rush forward without hesitation. He grabbed Lufinfin and the others and threw them to the side. But the bullet was still faster than him and grazed his arm. "Hiss!" Wan Jingyu gasped. At this moment, a group of black-robed people walked out from behind the pile of rocks. The group of people only revealed a pair of pitch-black eyes, which was incomparably strange. These people were also holding a group of hostages. A group of hostages had machine guns pointed at their heads. It was obvious that this group of hostages were the poor and unlucky people who had been caught by the criminals while strolling in the purple cherry garden. "Son, my son, my son." When Lufinfin saw Bo Wenxiu among the hostages, she screamed and tried to push Wan Jingyu away. "This is your son?" One of the black-robed people heard this and asked. "Yes, let him go. As long as you let him go, I can give you money. I'll give you as much as you want." Lufinfin nodded frantically. It wasn't that Bo Wenxiu was tied up by the black-robed people and couldn't move. He also covered his mouth. "Okay," the black-robed people agreed. Seeing this, Lufinfin heaved a sigh of relief. Just when Lufinfin thought that the black-robed people would really let him go, the black-robed people suddenly took out a dagger. In front of everyone, he swung the dagger and chopped off Bo Wenxiu's middle and ring fingers in front of everyone. "Sorry, I was going to loosen his ropes, but I didn't expect that I would miss." Chapter 2487. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Page 1/1. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The black-robed man's expression was hidden under the thick black robe. His tone was calm, as if what he had just done was a very simple and normal thing. Woo, 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 woo. Bo Wunshio, whose mouth was covered by black tape, had 2 of his fingers chopped off. He was in so much pain that the pulse in his head was obvious. The pain of having 2 of his fingers chopped off without any anesthetics made Bowen's face turn green with the black tape covering his mouth. When everyone saw this scene, all of them turned pale with fright. This was especially true for Su'er, Suya, Han Jinling, and the other young people. No, no, son, my Wenxiao. Lu Fenfen cried out in shock. Her eyes widened, as if she couldn't believe the unreal scene in front of her. She cried out in surprise. No, why? Impossible. Why was it her son? Why was it her son who had his fingers chopped off? When the other hostages saw this horrifying scene, they were so scared that their faces turned pale and their souls flew out of their bodies. Too cruel. It was simply too cruel. Was this black-robed man really human? How could he do such a thing? Other than Yun Jian, everyone else was shocked by this horrifying scene. If when Jingyu hadn't used his uninjured hand to hold onto Lu Fenfen, she would have already rushed out. It's all your fault. It's all your friend's fault. If it wasn't for your friend, my son wouldn't have escaped from today's engagement banquet and wouldn't have bet on you. Once we get out of here, I'll definitely kill you. Lu Fenfen's eyes were red and swollen. She suddenly turned her head and shouted at Yun Jian. She looked as if she couldn't wait to kill Yun Jian. At this moment, the black-robed man's attention was on Yun Jian. In the next second, the black-robed man laughed. You've finally appeared. Looking at Yun Jian, the black-robed leader continued. From the beginning, Yun Jian felt that this black-robed man's voice was very familiar. Under everyone's gaze, Yun Jian lowered her eyes. In the next second, she said firmly without any hesitation or doubt, You are Qi Ling, the former number 2 assassin on the assassin ranking. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present suddenly turned to look at the black-robed man. Not only were they terrified of the black-robed man's identity as an assassin, what was even more frightening was Qi Ling was the former number 2 assassin on the ranking list. In other words, Qi Ling was the assassin who had killed Slaying God, the current number 1 on the International Secret Agent ranking, a few years ago during the Bloody Night incident. He was already a dead man. How could he still be alive? The assassin called Qi Ling suddenly tore off the black cloth covering his face, revealing a ferocious face. That appearance was indeed that of Qi Ling, one of the top 20 international assassins who had died in that Bloody Night incident. Qi Ling was supposed to be a dead man. What was going on? At this moment, the 19 black-robed men standing next to Qi Ling tore off the black cloth covering their faces one by one. Familiar faces from the Bloody Night incident were exposed before everyone's eyes. Just as Su'er, Suya, Lu Fenfen, Wen Jingyu, and everyone else present were stunned by the scene before them. Qi Ling suddenly uttered words that were unforgettable to Yun Jian in front of everyone who was pale with fright. You're right. Yun Jian, you're right. Slaying God, you didn't expect us to come back to life after you killed us, did you? It's been a few years since we last met, and you're still as powerful as ever. But we're still not convinced. Here and now, the Bloody Night incident will happen again. Slaying God, take this. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2488. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. Everyone present had heard about the Bloody Night incident that had taken the world by storm a few years ago. It was a storm that stirred up huge waves in the world. The top 10 secret agents on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard had teamed up with the top 10 killers on the International Assassin Leaderboard to deal with a secret agent codenamed Slaying God. In the end, Slaying God single-handedly annihilated 20 top secret agent assassins and shot to fame. This incident caused a global sensation. Countless international bigwigs were terrified of slaying God's secret agent. Be it the Bloody Night incident or slaying God, everyone present was no stranger to them. Therefore, after hearing Qi Ling's words, Lu Fenfen, the rich lady who had cursed Yun Jian earlier, turned as pale as a sheet of white paper. Su'er, Suya, Han Jinling, Zhou Depeng, Wen Jingyu, and the group of innocent tourists who were unfortunately held hostage by Qi Ling and his men. All of them were trembling in fear. To everyone's horror, the thing that shocked them the most was Yun Jian was the main character who had caused such a stir and shot to fame, the #1 secret agent on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard, slaying God. The terrifying woman who had become the nightmares of countless international bosses. She is. Lu Fenfen's face turned pale with fright. Her body trembled violently at a speed that was visible to the naked eye. At that moment, Lu Fenfen did not even care about her son, who had 2 fingers chopped off and was in so much pain that he could barely breathe. The #1 secret agent on the International Secret Agent Leaderboard, slaying God. She was the one who had stepped on countless corpses from the top of the world and whose hands were never stained with blood. Isn't she the friend of the mistress who stole Wen Xiu from me? How can this be? How can this be? So you could not care less that her fiancé's fingers had been chopped off. Her eyes were bigger than a fish's, and she looked like she was scared out of her wits. Su'er, Han Jinling, Zhou Depeng, Wen Jingyu, and the rest were all rooted to the spot without exception. Just as everyone stood there in a daze, unable to utter a single word, Yun Jian slowly raised her head. Under her bangs, her murderous gaze swept across the entire crowd. It was that guy who helped you revive, right? The clear female voice that was indescribably comforting rang, but Yun Jian was already looking up at Qi Ling and the others. She didn't care about the reactions of the people around her. Her eyes were fixed on the 20 people led by Qi Ling. The murderous intent emitted from her eyes made everyone tremble. Compared to the Yun Jian from before, there was a clear contrast. At this moment, just a glance from her was enough to make people feel her murderous aura. Yun Jian didn't expect that Qi Ling and the others would come back to life. Slaying God, I bet you didn't see this coming. Back then, when you killed the 20 of us, we did indeed die in your hands. But we were resurrected by that mysterious master. We've been living in seclusion in the mountains for the past few years, so that we could meet you again one day and send you to hell with our own hands. We've planned for this day for many years, and we're finally going to get our wish today. Slaying God, we'll defeat you with our own abilities. Qi Ling, who was ranked 2nd on the International Assassin chart back then, seemed to have become the leader of the 20 people now. At this moment, Qi Ling represented the rest, as he clenched his fists and spoke in front of everyone. The atmosphere reached its climax in an instant. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian would at least tremble at being hunted down by her enemies, they saw Yun Jian curl her lips into an eerie smile in front of everyone. Then, she suddenly pulled out 2 pistols from her waist and threw them on the ground. In front of everyone, she spoke arrogantly to Qi Ling and the others, which made everyone present feel horrified. No matter how many times you revive, the ending will be the same. Back then, I could bury the 20 of you with my bare hands. Today I, slaying God, can do the same and send you to hell again with my bare hands. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 2489, page 1/1. Yun Jian's words were arrogant. Putting aside how Yun Jian had killed Qi Ling and his men a few years ago, the fact that Yun Jian was facing them alone right now was enough to make one wonder. Qi Ling and his men had trained themselves for so many years just to kill her. Could Yun Jian really take on all 20 of them? Moreover, she had to fight empty-handed. Did she really have the ability to do that? No matter how sensational the incident back then was, it was only a legend after all. To Lu Fenfen, Su'er, Suya, Wen Jingyu, and the rest, a legend was different from what they had witnessed in real life. Even if Yun Jian had defeated Qi Ling and its 20 men in the past, was there really a chance of her winning when her petite figure went up against 20 burly and invincible secret agent assassins who had once swept the world? It was mentioned that the 20 assassins who were ranked in the top 10 of the International Assassin ranking a few years ago were not on the same level as the current top 10 assassins. To put it simply, Qi Ling and his men have been ranked in the top 10 of the International Assassin ranking for more than 10 years. After Qi Ling and his men were killed by Yun Jian, the top 10 spots on the International Assassin ranking were suddenly empty. As the saying went, a country could not live without a king. Qi Ling and his men's positions were naturally taken over by the assassins ranked behind them. If the 20 agents who took over the positions of Qi Ling's 20 assassins were stronger than Qi Ling's 20 assassins, they should have long been ranked higher than Qi Ling's 20 assassins. Therefore, the abilities of Qi Ling and his men were not something the current top 10 assassins on the International Assassin ranking could compare to. Just as everyone was frowning in worry, wondering if Yun Jian could win against Qi Ling and his men, Qi Ling and his men laughed. All of a sudden, Qi Ling chuckled as well. Slaying God, we assassins have always been unscrupulous. Don't forget that there are many hostages around here. I don't believe that you can take care of them one by one. The corners of Qi Ling's mouth curved into a strange smile. At the same time, he spoke evilly. After saying that, Qi Ling glanced at Lu Fenfen, Suya, Su'er, Wen Jingyu, and the others with a strange look. That gaze seemed to be telling everyone present that everyone here was a hostage. None of them could escape death. Lu Fenfen and the others shuddered when they were glanced at by this terrifying gaze. However, this was indeed the case. Everyone present, except for Snake, Lizard's group, was a burden to Yun Jian. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian would not be able to escape death, Yun Jian's cold voice suddenly rang out. What does their lives have to do with me? The life and death of these people did not affect Yun Jian in the slightest. Why was Slaying God listed as the top secret agent in the International Secret Agent ranking? That was because she was cold and heartless. She had never stopped moving forward because of anyone. Upon hearing Yun Jian's words, everyone's hearts trembled. I've almost forgotten that you, Slaying God, have a cold and heartless side. Qi Ling was not shocked at all. The ones who were truly shocked were the group of people around them. Was Yun Jian planning to give up on them and live on her own? Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian and Qi Ling's men would continue their conversation, Qi Ling's eyes flashed, and he secretly signaled to the other 19 assassins. 20 of them attacked Yun Jian from different angles. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2490, page 1/1. Underground assassins and secret agents were like this. You would never be able to guess what they were thinking. They killed as they pleased. Just a second ago, they could use strange and frightening words to provoke you. In the next second, they could suddenly change their initial impression of you and directly kill you. Just like Qi Ling and the other 19 secret agents glanced at each other, and at a speed that could not be seen by the naked eye, they stood around Yun Jian, surrounding Yun Jian and attacking at the same time. The assassin who was the fastest to attack Yun Jian stepped on a large rock at the side and spun 360 degrees in the air, directly flying in front of Yun Jian. With lightning speed, he held a dagger and attacked Yun Jian's temple. Assassins and secret agents generally did not use firearms when they fought. Firearms were only suitable for long-range attacks. When both sides were extremely strong, they would usually use daggers which were suitable for close-range attacks. This was because shooting from afar would not be able to kill the opponent. Qi, the first assassin who attacked Yun Jian, stabbed towards her temple. Following closely, the other 3 secret agents followed closely behind the first assassin. They were 0.5 seconds slower than the first assassin and used their killing moves to attack Yun Jian's neck, heart, and abdomen. There were acupuncture points all over a person's body. As long as you knew these, you could pinch a person's acupuncture points from anywhere. the other party would feel as if all their acupuncture points were pinched and they would not be able to move. These 20 secret agents were not simple low-level assassins or high-level assassins. They had all gone through the most formal and traditional training and were at the pinnacle of the secret agent world. They were powerful existences that no one dared to provoke. Their understanding of killing techniques and killing methods were not any less than Yunjian's. Their speed of attack was not much slower than Yunjian's. These 20 people were all at the pinnacle of the world. As the three agents followed closely behind the assassin to deliver the fatal blow to Yunjian, Yunjian's eyes widened. Behind them, the assassins and agents also followed the four people who made the first move and got into position. It could be said that this was a game of chess. To the left, to the right, to the front, to the back is death. At least in the eyes of Lu Finfin, Su Er, and Suya, Yunjian was completely done for this time. Even though she had defeated these 20 people before, it did not mean that she was powerful. This was because no one had witnessed how slaying God defeated the 20 of them back then. Those who did had gone to hell. She's finished. So he was a little afraid that she would see a bloody scene. She was so scared that she covered her eyes, only revealing a thin slit. She was curious to see this frightening scene. But just when everyone thought that Yunjian was done for, they saw that Yunjian, who had been standing motionless, didn't even look at them. She grabbed the blade of the assassin who was the first to stab her temple with one hand. She held the blade firmly in her hand with a gap of 0.1 millimeters. Almost at the same time that she grabbed the assassin's blade, she lifted her leg high and used the heel of her flats to wrap around the three secret agents' wrists that were holding the blades that were coming for her neck, heart, and abdomen. She kicked the three secret agents aside with the heel of her shoe. The rest of the secret agents did not even bat an eyelid. Before Yunjian could kill the four secret agents, the remaining 16 secret agents attacked Yunjian again. Don't let her snatch our weapons. Get into formation. Set up our formation. Even if we die again today, we'll avenge ourselves and kill slaying God. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 2491. After the four assassins were thrown to the side by Yunjian, Qi Ling gave a heart-wrenching roar. He waved his dagger and arrived in front of Yunjian in the shortest time possible. Yunjian, without a weapon, was already hard for them to deal with. Once Yunjian grabbed their weapons, the one with the absolute advantage would definitely be Yunjian. This was a battle between the real world's top assassins. This was a battle of life and death between the former king and the current emperor. Oh my God, was this their world? It belongs to the world of assassins and agents. Han Jinling didn't even want to blink his eyes. He stared fixedly at the shocking scene before him and sighed. This is probably the world of assassins and agents. Suer gave a long sigh and said firmly, this was the world of assassins and agents. At this moment, Yunjian was facing Qi Ling. After Qi Ling finished his words, he flashed behind Yunjian and attacked Yunjian from behind. At the same time, 5 assassins attacked Yunjian from 5 different angles. They attacked Yunjian from the front. Seeing this, Yunjian's eyes narrowed slightly. Then she squatted down and planned to kick the 5 assassins to the ground. These 5 assassins were not weak. Seeing this, they immediately changed their knife techniques and attacked Yunjian, who was squatting down. Qi Ling's dagger was about to pierce Yunjian's heart from the back. However, just as the 5 assassins changed their weapons to attack Yunjian, who was squatting down, she stood up abruptly and lifted her leg to sweep it across. She had intended to sweep the 5 assassins' legs, but she stood up without warning and kicked their heads consecutively. The 5 assassins had no time to react and were kicked to the ground. At this moment, Qi Ling's dagger was 0.1 millimeters away from Yunjian's heart from the back. Just when everyone's hearts were in their throats, thinking that Yunjian would definitely fail this time, a voice suddenly rang out. Using the inertia from kicking the 5 assassins to the ground, Yunjian spun sideways and clasped her hands together, catching Qi Ling's blade that was aimed at her heart between her palms. Oh no! Qi Ling's heart skipped a beat. Just as Qi Ling's heart skipped a beat, Yun Jian's monotonous voice rang out in front of everyone. Now it's my turn to fight back. These words were cold to the bone. Qi Ling was frightened and panic-stricken. Dagger, dagger, dagger. With a side kick, Yun Jian sent Qi Ling to the ground. At the same time, she slashed Qi Ling's hand that was holding the dagger. Lowering her hand, she gripped the dagger accurately in front of everyone. She had snatched the weapon in the end. This meant that it was time for her, slaying God, to retaliate. The 20 assassins who had charged forward fearlessly were now staring at Yun Jian cautiously, as if their feet were glued to the ground. None of them dared to move forward. Slaying God, the number one on the international secret agent ranking, was the king when she did not have a weapon. When she had a weapon, she was the ruler of the world, a sacred symbol that could make all living beings bow down to her. At this moment, be it Lu Fenfen, Su Er, Su Ya, Han Jinling, or even Wen Jingyu, everyone's eyes were glued to Yun Jian. They were completely stunned by Yun Jian's terrifying skills. Just as everyone watched, Yun Jian suddenly raised the dagger in front of her eyes. The sharp glint in her eyes shone through the dagger and was reflected in everyone's field of vision. Her lips curled into an eerie curve that sent chills down one's spine before she blurted out the most brash and arrogant words. "You're the one who's going to kill me. It's time to send all of you on your way." If you want to talk about campus rebirth, the strongest female secret agent with more like-minded people, follow excellent reading literature on WeChat. Talk about life, find a confidant. Chapter 2492. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Yun Jian's flawless face was so beautiful that it made people forget to breathe. Her lips that had never been smeared with lip gloss were as pink as a newborn baby's with a natural pinkish red. Those words, which made one's head feel as if it had been smashed by something, came out from those naturally pink lips. Once the words were spoken, everyone's heart felt like it was being squeezed by someone's hand as their breathing quickened. Lu Fenfen, Su Ya, Su Er, Wen Jingyu, and the rest had thought that Yun Jian would struggle even if she was slaying God when facing Qi Ling's team of 20 assassins. After all, they had witnessed Qi Ling's team's killer move earlier. With their flawless moves and the near-perfect coordination of Qi Ling's team, it would be impossible for Zhang Tai to dodge their attacks, let alone defeat Qi Ling's team. Lu Fenfen, Su Ya, and Su Er, in particular, could not help but put themselves in the shoes of the scene when they witnessed such a realistic scene unfolding before their eyes. Hence, they assumed that Yun Jian must be having a hard time dodging Qi Ling's team's attacks. Who would have thought that not only was Yun Jian effortless, she had counterattacked easily and even snatched their weapons away when Qi Ling's team of assassins attacked her at the same time. If slaying God, the top secret agent in the international secret agent ranking, was only a legendary and terrifying figure that everyone spoke of before this, she was now the top secret agent in the world. Now, Lu Fenfen and the rest had thoroughly experienced Yun Jian's ability. If those secret agents and assassins are considered the pinnacle of international capability, then she's the ruler of everything. She's the incarnation of God. Han Jinling, who usually had a way of flirting with girls and was gorgeous and handsome when he was a singer in the entertainment industry, was now tugging at the corner of his shirt nervously as he exclaimed with a pallid face. Lu Fenfen's expression darkened. Why was Chen Sini's friend such a terrifying existence? Was she not just an ordinary person from a small place like Longmen City? How did he know the number one agent on the international secret agent ranking list? He was the kind of person who treated human life as child's play and killed without hesitation. Lu Fenfen and the others who were watching from the sidelines flashed through their minds. Qi Ling, who had just been knocked to the ground by Yun Jian, clutched his abdomen and stood up as quickly as he could. As he stood up, he exclaimed to the other 19 agents, "Go! Let's go together." The weapon was snatched away by her. This meant that they were in danger. Once slaying God wielded a weapon. Then, just as Qi Ling finished his words, however, Yun Jian was already in front of him in a flash. The moment the 9 assassins behind her launched their attacks at the same time, Qi Ling's eyes widened. The dagger in his hand spun a few times in Yun Jian's right hand before stabbing into Qi Ling's wrists and ankles, cutting off the most important meridians in Qi Ling's body. Qi Ling, whose meridians had been severed, was no different from a cripple. In the future, he wouldn't even be able to hold a dagger. When the other 9 assassins saw this, they were stunned. Qi Ling was the strongest of them all. He was also their backbone. With their backbone crippled, it would be impossible for them to go against slaying God. This momentary pause was just a momentary pause. The dagger in Yun Jian's hand flew past the 9 assassins' necks, taking their lives with the flying dagger. At the same time, Yun Jian blocked the attacks of the 3 agents who were coming at her from behind. She flashed past them and grabbed their spines tightly, pinching them through their clothes before tightening her grip and grabbing them. A person's spine was the backbone of the body. Once someone with sufficient strength grabbed the spine and pinched the fatal point, the person would die before he could even make a final sound. This was common knowledge in the world of assassins and agents. Of course, under normal circumstances, killing someone by pinching the fatal point of the spine was only suitable for female agents to seduce them. This was because most people would not be able to pinch the fatal point, so they would need to feel around the person's back for a period of time. If it was someone else who needed to fumble around, Yun Jian did not even hesitate for a second to reach out and pinch their vital points. In just 3 short seconds, she had killed the 3 agents who had followed her in quick succession. Her technique had once again refreshed Lu Finfin and the rest's understanding of agents. At this moment, everyone around them was stunned by Yun Jian's fast, accurate, ruthless, and steady technique. They stood rooted to the ground, trembling violently. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 2493. In the blink of an eye, Lu Finfin, Su Er, Su Ya, and the rest of the 20 top-notch Secret Service assassins were reduced to 7. Yun Jian had severed all of Qi Ling's vital meridians with one slash. With his meridians crippled, he would never be able to hold a dagger or a gun again. In other words, that slash had turned Qi Ling into a cripple who was worse than an ordinary person. As for the 9 assassins and the 3 agents, they were killed on the spot by Yun Jian with a single slash. Naturally, the remaining 7 Secret Service agents were no match for Yun Jian. Ha ha ha! Qi Ling guffawed when the outcome was decided and the remaining 7 Secret Service agents dared not come forward. The corpses of the 12 Secret Service assassins were strewn all over the ground. As he laughed, tears streamed down from the corner of his eyes. He laughed and cried at the same time. Qi Ling didn't find this strange scene strange at all. As he laughed, Qi Ling suddenly stood up shakily from the ground. He looked at Yun Jian with a wide grin on his face. As he laughed, tears streamed down from the corner of his eyes. Ha ha! I can't believe that after so many years, the 20 of us are still no match for you. Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! Ha ha ha! Qi Ling laughed like a madman. His laughter was earth-shattering. Lu Finfin, Su Er, and the rest felt their hearts clench as they panicked. Qi Ling chuckled like a car that had slammed on the brakes halfway through its journey. He stopped smiling abruptly and glared at Yun Jian with a murderous glare before snickering menacingly. However, slaying God, do you really think that we can be resurrected because that mysterious big shot didn't give us any other powers? After that, Qi Ling looked at the 12 people who were killed by Yun Jian and said, "Stand up, all of you. It's time for slaying God to witness our true strength that transcends the universe." The mysterious person had given them a brand new power. It was enough to defeat slaying God's mortal body. Everyone was shocked when Qi Ling said that. However, a minute passed and there was no reaction. Qi Ling's eyes trembled when he saw that. What's going on? After that, Qi Ling's earlier arrogance vanished. He glared at Yun Jian and asked in a terrified tone, What did you do? Didn't the mysterious person who resurrected all of you tell you that I have the same power that you have? Just as Qi Ling's fear reached its peak, Yin Jian spoke faintly. After that, her red lips curved into a smile. Qi Ling's eyes widened and everyone else's eyes widened. And I came from the mysterious person who resurrected all of you. As for them, their souls have been completely severed by me. Even if the mysterious person were to act again, he would not be able to save them. Once, the person, the world, the world, the world, the world of the world. There was no other way to save them. Yun Jian's words were a huge blow to Qi Ling. Qi Ling's face darkened to the extreme at this moment. However, Qi Ling's expression only darkened slightly. In the next second, he suddenly laughed out loud, "Ha ha." Even so, that mysterious person even sent Lord Jiuhuang to help us deal with you. Lord Jiuhuang's power is not something you can fight against. Slaying God, you're still going to die today. Qi Ling guffawed. However, his laughter only lasted for 2 seconds. A package stained with dried blood suddenly fell from the sky. The cloth outside the package slid to the ground, revealing a bloody head without a body. Ah! Lu Fenfin screamed in fright when she saw the head. When he saw the face of the head, Qi Ling's smile froze. Lord Jiuhuang? How is this possible? Just as Qi Ling's panicked voice fell, a magnetic male voice that was so cold that it sent shivers down one's spine rang out from behind a rock. That pleasant voice that made people unable to help but indulge in it came out from his handsome, thin lips in front of everyone. You bullied the mother of my child. Did you ask for my permission? Chapter 2494, page 1/1. The head fell from the sky, and when it landed on the ground, the layer of cloth that covered it slid off. It was just like when Yun Jian was reborn and his younger brother was killed. Qi Ling's heart was twisted at this moment, and he collapsed. Jiuhuang, Lord Jiuhuang is dead. Yes. No, this is impossible. How could Lord Jiuhuang be dead? Dead. Qi Ling was so scared that his face turned pale. Even his lips and teeth trembled violently. Compared to Qi Ling, Lu Fenfin was scared to death when she saw this scene. Qi Ling wasn't afraid of the scene in front of him. As an assassin, he had seen all kinds of bloody scenes. What made Qi Ling's expression change was that the final trump card that could kill slaying God for them was dead, and to die in such a cruel way. Back then, when Lord Jiuhuang was ordered by the mysterious person to resurrect the 20 of them, he had even fought with them. The reason was because when the 20 of them had just been revived, they were not willing to listen to Lord Jiuhuang. Who would have thought that Lord Jiuhuang would extend a finger and defeat all 20 of them? That brand new power, the power called spiritual power, made them crave and desire it. At the same time, they also held respect and worship for Lord Jiuhuang. But this handsome man who suddenly appeared actually killed Lord Jiuhuang. Then his strength must have reached the pinnacle of perfection. It was the first time Qi Ling felt fear from someone other than slaying God. He trembled for 2 seconds and took 2 steps back. He wanted to flee at the last minute. Brother, where are you going? Just as Qi Ling took 2 steps back and was about to escape, a whistle was blown and a male voice suddenly sounded behind Qi Ling. This man's voice carried a hint of joy. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of a knife entering a person's body followed closely behind. However, Adam, who had suddenly appeared, was holding a long blade in his hand. Just as Qi Ling retreated and was about to escape, he stabbed the long saber in his hand into Qi Ling's heart. The long saber pierced through Qi Ling's chest from the position of his heart. At this moment, Adam's face was still smiling mischievously, but the long blade in his hand mercilessly pierced through Qi Ling's heart. After saying that, Adam flicked the long saber in his hand and said to Qi Ling the last words he heard in his life. Brother, do you feel good? These scenes flashed past Lu Fenfin's eyes one after another. Lu Fenfin raised her red nail-painted hand and looked at the scene in front of her with shock and fear. In the next second, her head fell. because she could not bear with so many things that had just happened. She was completely frightened and fainted. With C, E, and Adam around, no matter how powerful the other 7 agents were, they wouldn't be able to survive. Woo woo woo, Mama. At this moment, Imo-san walked over with 2 children who had been crying nonstop, as if they were competing to see who could cry the loudest. This you really have children. Han Jinling reacted at this moment. He looked at the 2 children in Imo-san's arms who somewhat resembled Yunjian. His eyes widened, and he asked in surprise. Yunjian ignored Han Jinling. When the 2 children saw Yunjian, they instantly stopped crying. At this moment, the little boy and the little girl had pitiful tears hanging on their faces. They stretched out their hands to Yunjian and cried nonstop. Imo-san, on the other hand, hugged both men tightly, preventing them from falling to the ground because they arched their backs trying to get into her embrace. He did not want to travel to the Amazon forest or the Sahara Desert. The little boy seemed to know that Imo-san was holding him tightly, not letting him get close to his mother. In front of everyone, the little boy puffed up his cheeks and blew. He desperately lowered his head to the ground. Imo-san hugged him tightly and did not dare to let go. At this moment, the little boy's short legs successfully broke free from Imo-san's arms. He shouted fiercely, "Yeah, scum! Scum, scum, scum!" That short leg actually kicked Imo-san in the face. With this kick, the little boy seemed to have found something fun. He stood upside down, and his clothes were held by Imo-san so that he did not fall. The little boy's short legs that kicked Imo-san's face began to kick alternately. It looked like he was taking revenge on Imo-san for not letting him go to his mother's side. Top reading website, M. Chapter 2495. Young Madam, young master is looking for you. Imo-san, who was kicked a few times by the little guy, didn't have the slightest change in expression as he spoke to Yunjian. Ha ha ha. You, Imo-san, also have a day like this. After Adam dealt with the few people at the scene, he directly threw the long saber on the ground and walked towards Imo-senator walking in front of Imo-san. Adam reached out and picked up the little guy upside down, and then said to the little guy impolitely, "Hey kid, call me Big Brother, and I'll take you to find your mother." The little guy, who was less than 6 months old, was picked up upside down by Adam, and he made a very dissatisfied yaya sound. "Yo kid, you have a bit of a temper. You want to fight with Big Brother?" Brother Xiaoxin will. Adam still had a bit of a temper. However, just as Adam's words fell, he suddenly felt a sharp and irresistible killing intent refracted towards him. Adam held the little guy's leg with one hand and held the little guy upside down in front of him. His head slowly moved like a robot to look at the source of the killing intent. But his eyes just happened to meet CE's deep black eyes that seemed to want to silence him. "This ha-ha, young master." Adam's face slowly stiffened at this moment. When he said this, he also picked up one of the little guy's legs and pulled the corner of his mouth. The next second, Adam hurriedly turned the little guy upside down and held him firmly in his arms. Little guy is so cute, huh?" Adam said, and reached out to flick the little guy's pink and tender little face. He swallowed the word kid that he wanted to say at the beginning. "Sahara Desert for a month. Food and accommodation are provided. Pack up, we'll leave tomorrow." See, he was expressionless. He glanced at Adam, and after saying this, he took Yunjian's hand and walked over to take the little girl from Imo-senator. He held her in his arms, threw the little guy to Adam, and left after saying this. "My God, you want me to go again?" Adam pulled the corner of his mouth, and his face was unhappy. After Yunjian and C, he had left with the little girl. Imo-san put on his gloves and spoke to Adam calmly. "Let's get to work. Fortunately, you're not carrying a girl. Otherwise, you won't be able to come back from the Sahara Desert for a year." Imo-san's words were ambiguous. What he meant by starting work was naturally to clean up the scene. What the hell? After hearing Imo-san's words, Adam clicked his tongue at Imo-senator then. He looked at the little fellow and was about to show a fierce expression to the little fellow. Lowering his head, he suddenly saw the little fellow looking at him and sticking out her tongue. Adam was furious. In his anger, Adam suddenly opened his mouth and said to the little fellow, "Kid, sooner or later, I'll make that stinking brat of mine marry your sister. Wait for me." He didn't dare to say this in front of C.E. Wei Province, Pan City People's Hospital. Not long after Chinsini returned to the ward, Zhang Xiaofeng heard the news and ran back as fast as he could. At this moment, Zhang Xiaofeng and Chinsini had been alone in the ward for a while. It was hot. Moreover, Zhang Xiaofeng couldn't hold back and finally confessed to Chinsini. "Sini, be with me. Don't torment us anymore. I don't care about blood relations anymore. Let's be together." Zhang Xiaofeng suddenly said this. When he said this, Chinsini was shocked. However, after the previous incident, Chinsini was actually a little tempted. She was silent for a long time. Finally, she thought about how she would tell the elders if they were together. She closed her eyes and said, "I've already lost my virginity to Wenxiu. We're really not suitable for each other." Of course, this was just an excuse. Actually, Chinsini's heart was still a little tempted. She even thought that if she hadn't lost her virginity to Wenxiu, then that day, I was the one who asked Wenxiu to get you drunk and bring you to a hotel. After that, I asked him to take responsibility for me. Chinsini, listen to me. I like you. That day, I was the one who **ed you, not Wenxiu. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 2496. Page 1/1. So, Chinsini, you're my woman for the rest of your life. Zhang Xiaofeng grabbed Chinsini's shoulders with both hands and swore loudly. Fortunately, the ward was a single room. Otherwise, if Zhang Xiaofeng shouted these words, Chinsini would be embarrassed to death. But for some reason, after knowing that the person that night was Zhang Xiaofeng, Chinsini heaved a sigh of relief. As expected, she still liked him. Even after dating Bo Wenxiu for a year, the two of them treated each other with respect. Only Chinsini thought that she had crossed the line that night. Her heart had already given Zhang Xiaofeng without reservation a long time ago. Even after that night, Chinsini was still forcing herself to like Bo Wenxiu, but it wasn't true love. At this moment, Chinsini's tense heart completely relaxed. She threw herself into Zhang Xiaofeng's arms and suddenly burst into tears. "Why did you do this? Why didn't you tell me earlier? I hate you the most." Zhang Xiaofeng is the most hated person in the world. Zhang Xiaofeng knew that Chinsini was being sarcastic. He also heaved a sigh of relief. He hugged Chinsini back tightly and forced a smile. Bo Wenxiu ran away from the marriage because he didn't like Suya, but he didn't expect that he would lose 2 fingers because of this. "It's okay, I'm fine. My mom won't dare to force me to marry again. 2 fingers in exchange for free marriage. For someone like me who was born in a rich family and had no choice, it's too good." Before leaving Wei Province, Chinsini and Zhang Xiaofeng went to say goodbye to Bo Wenxiu. Bo Wenxiu lay on the sickbed and raised his 2 fingers that had already been chopped off and were now wrapped in white bandages. He laughed loudly. However, his words carried a bitterness that outsiders could not understand. In the end, Chinsini and Zhang Xiaofeng left. Sometimes, if you want to get a part of what you want, you have to exchange another part of it. Once he did, he would never have the chance to regret it. Once the heavens took away the items you traded, they would not return them to you in the form of a miracle. After Yunjian and the rest returned to Longmen City, Chinsini and Zhang Xiaofeng returned as well. The relationship between Chinsini and Zhang Xiaofeng was still a secret. They didn't dare to let their family find out. However, after everything was explained, Chinsini's original intention of deliberately distancing herself from Zhang Xiaofeng was completely gone. As for his family, he would keep it a secret for as long as he could. They had decided to be together, and they would not change their minds until death. January 21st, 2004 was New Year's Eve, also known as New Year's Eve. On this night, everyone gathered at Qinyiru's villa to have the New Year's Eve dinner prepared by Qinyiru. After dinner, the little one and the girl were especially excited. At night, Qingyu dragged Yun, Yi, Gunyinji, and Lung Mei to play mahjong. Yun Jian sat on the sofa with her legs crossed. Opposite her sat Lan Su. Lan Su, who was also a mother of a child, maintained her youthful appearance. Like Yun Jian, she looked like she was 18 years old at most. Yun Jian looked at Lan Su with narrowed eyes and told Lan Su, "Come with me to Yun Province's Shrouded Dragon Mountain in 2 days." "All right." Lan Su nodded. Of course, they would have to wait until after the new year to go to Yun Province's Shrouded Dragon Mountain. As for why Yun Jian wanted to go to Shrouded Dragon Mountain, there was only one answer. Xingfeng, the creator of Deity Continent, had left behind 3 divine weapons. The third one was in Shrouded Dragon Mountain. He would investigate Xingfeng's matter directly when she returned to Deity Continent. The search for the third divine weapon was left to Yun Jian. The path to the peak of Yun Province's Shrouded Dragon Mountain was where Yun Jian's target was. It was filled with poisonous miasma all year round, and wild beasts roamed around, making it extremely dangerous. It was said that those who came back from the peak were either dead or crippled. However, she had to go to the peak of Shrouded Dragon Mountain. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2497. Page 1/1. Sister Jian, contact me anytime. Lan Su nodded at Yun Jian. Yun Jian hummed in reply. On New Year's Eve, Xiao Yunzhu, Duan Li, Duanya, and the children stayed up until past midnight, only going to bed after receiving the New Year's red packets from the adults. The little boy and girl did not know what a red packet was. After receiving the New Year's red packet, the little guy happily stuffed the big red packet into his mouth. In the end, they were stopped by Qin Yiru in time. New Year's Eve was very exciting for children. To Yun Jian, however, other than the incessant sound of firecrackers around them, it was no different from any other day. The next morning, Yun Jian accompanied Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian to visit their relatives. He did not go with them. Since the little boy and girl had slept late last night and were sound asleep this morning, Yun Jian could not bear to wake them up, so she asked Si to stay and watch over them. Si dared not disobey Yun Jian. Moreover, Si did not feel anything about visiting Qin Yiru's relatives. Although it was said that they were visiting Qin Yiru's relatives, they were actually returning to Xinjiang town to bring some New Year's goodies or give the elderly a red packet. Gu Yunjian's relatives were not in Jia province, so they were visiting Qin Yiru's relatives on New Year's Day. The first family they visited was Qin Yiru's maternal family, the Qins. When she saw Yun Jian alighting from the car, Qin Yiru's mother, Zhang Meihua, was the first to greet her from afar. "Oh, my granddaughter's back? Come in and have a seat. It's been so long since I last saw you. You've grown prettier. You're Yiru's child indeed, beautiful and delicate." Ever since she knew that Yun Jian was the director of new crews, Zhang Meihua had been fawning over her. Humans were like that. When someone you used to look down on became rich, they would forget what they had done to you that you could not tolerate and try to get close to you as if nothing had happened. There were many people who came to Zhang Meihua's house today. They only visited each other during New Year's Day and did not know that they were distant relatives. A normal person would not embarrass Zhang Meihua in front of so many people. At the moment, Zhang Meihua's relatives whom Yun Jian had never met were standing in the yard. They could not help but turn to look when they saw another visit. Judging from the way Zhang Meihua spoke to Yun Jian, anyone would assume that Yun Jian was close to her grandmother. Zhang Meihua was Zhang Meihua's. Zhang Meihua, and Zhang was Zhang Meihua's Zhang house. Yang Zhang's family's Yun Jian had never forgiven Zhang Meihua for what she had done to Qin Yiru. Some people's mistakes could be forgiven, but some people's mistakes were just like those who cheated. They would never be forgiven in their lifetime. Yun Jian had never acknowledged Zhang Meihua as a relative. "Cousin, is this your granddaughter who managed to expand her company overseas at such a young age? Xian, come here. This is your great-aunt's granddaughter. You're the same age." Just as Yun Jian was about to walk past Zhang Meihua to catch up to Qin Yiru, an old woman who was fawning over Yun Jian walked over. She tugged at her granddaughter's hand as she spoke to Zhang Meihua, trying to get closer to Yun Jian. Zhang Meihua knew that Yun Jian did not like her, but she had such a capable granddaughter. Old women from the countryside had no other talents but to brag about such things and compare whose offspring had better grades and prospects. As a matter of fact, Zhang Meihua had already bragged about Yun Jian being New Cruise's director. The old woman who was tugging a 19-year-old girl was Zhang Meihua's cousin. They rarely interacted with each other. They would only visit each other during Chinese New Year. The 19-year-old girl who was the same age as Yun Jian was the old woman's granddaughter, Zhang Xuani. Zhang Xuani had dyed her long, chestnut-colored hair. She looked extremely reluctant when she was dragged to stand in front of Yun Jian. The old woman then spoke again. She spoke in an authentic village accent as she tugged at Zhang Xuani to fawn over Yun Jian. There are only so many young people in your generation. You must get along well with your family in the future. I heard that you're the director of New Cruise. You must teach my Xiani more in the future so that she can earn as much as you do. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy. Chapter 2498. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, there was a type of person who thought that since they were your relatives, you had to help them unconditionally so that their family could become successful too. Just like Zhang Meihua's cousin. Even when he said this, there was a tone that sounded as if it was only natural. When she said that, most people would be embarrassed to reject her outright. At that time, Zhang Meihua's cousin, who was the old lady, even reached out to hold Yun Jian's hand as if she was doing it for Yun Jian's sake. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian would agree to Zhang Meihua's cousin's unreasonable request for the sake of her reputation as New Cruise's director, Yun Jian slapped the old lady's hand away in front of everyone and said coldly, "No." That simple rejection stunned everyone who heard Yun Jian, especially the old lady. The old lady did not expect Yun Jian to reject her so straightforwardly. She was stunned. "Ha ha ha. Meihua, your granddaughter has a temper. Ahwa, don't be angry. She's just a kid. Although she's able to expand the company overseas and make a lot of money, she's still a kid. She doesn't know any better." Not long after Yun Jian finished, a middle-aged man in his 40s spoke to the old lady in an adult tone. He sounded like he was joking. Aihua was the old lady's name. Her full name was Ma Aihua. When Ma Aihua heard the middle-aged man's words, her stunned expression returned to normal. Just like before, she looked at Yun Jian with a smile. This time, she learned her lesson and did not hold Yun Jian's hand. Instead, she acted as if she did not hear Yun Jian's words and spoke again. "Your New Cruise's director. Since you're so capable, why don't you bring my Xiani along? My Xiani can do anything. You and my Xiani are cousins. We're going to be a family from now on. Spend some time to teach my Xian so that she can earn as much as you do." If Ma Aihua's words were said with a face full of righteousness, then this time, she even played the relative card. That was how society was. If you were poor, people would look down on you. If you were rich, people would want to cheat you out of every last drop of blood. No one liked to approach someone who was rich for no reason and constantly flatter and praise them, unless the other party had a purpose. Ma Aihua's shamelessness seemed to be a matter of course to the people around her. Yun Jian's refusal would be petty and wrong. In fact, there weren't many old women like Ma Aihua. Most people wouldn't mention it again after being rejected. However, after receiving Yun Jian's rejection, Ma Aihua once again spoke in a forceful tone. As soon as she said this, some of the relatives and friends standing around felt that Ma Aihua was shameless. "You want me to promote your granddaughter to make a lot of money?" Yun Jian heard Ma Aihua's repeated words. Her red arc curved, and she said scornfully. Hearing Yun Jian's words, Ma Aihua really felt that Yun Jian had agreed to her request. She quickly said, "Let my Xiani follow you. I want to earn as much money as you. She's very smart, no worse than you." She said this with such confidence. It was as if Yun Jian was lucky to be able to open the company overseas. If the same luck was given to her granddaughter, Zhang Xian, her granddaughter's achievements wouldn't be any worse than hers. Sure, just when everyone thought that Yun Jian would refuse like before, Yun Jian's pleasant female voice suddenly sounded. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. However, just as everyone was stunned, that cold female voice came out of Yun Jian's mouth again. Those words, in the ears of everyone present, made them tremble in fear. Send your granddaughter to an assassin organization for 10 years of training. If she can come out of the assassin organization alive, then I'll hire her as my bodyguard with an annual salary of 10 million yuan. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2499. Yun Jian was not joking. Her icy tone that was so cold that no one could tell that she was joking made everyone's heart skip a beat. Assassin organization? What assassin organization? What kind of organization is an assassin organization? Ma Aihua was an authentic village woman who had eventually turned into a cunning old woman. She had lived in the village for almost all her life. She was like Zhang Meihua, gathering with a bunch of old women to munch on melon seeds and boast about how good her offspring was in their studies, which high school or university they had been admitted to, and how high their income was after graduation. She would boast as much as she could. In spite of it, the term assassin organization was completely foreign to Ma Aihua. Grandma, an assassin organization is a place to train assassins. Assassins are people who kill as their profession. They're very, very, very good assassins who assassinate important people. It's terrifying. Besides, there are usually less than 3 out of thousands of people who enter an assassin organization that trains assassins. Zhang Xuani still had some understanding of the assassin organization. At this moment, she grabbed Ma Aihua's hand and shook Ma Aihua's arm as she spoke to Ma Aihua. It's a place like this. You want my granddaughter to go? Ma Aihua's expression froze when she heard Zhang Xuani's words as she questioned Yun Jian. What if my granddaughter dies? Ma Aihua raised her voice and spoke to Yun Jian in annoyance. Leaving the assassin organization alive is the minimum requirement I have for the bodyguards I hire. Do you really think that there's a free lunch waiting for you in this world? Yun Jian sneered as she glanced at Ma Aihua from the corner of her eyes. With that, Ma Aihua knew that Yun Jian was being sincere. Ma Aihua rolled her eyes at Yun Jian and spoke to Yun Jian in Longmen City's local dialect. Humph, how arrogant. There was a hint of disdain in her tone, as if she was an old woman who had turned her back on Yun Jian when she could not gain anything from her. As soon as she finished speaking, Ma Aihua grabbed her granddaughter, Zhang Xuani, and ignored Yun Jian. Before she left, however, Ma Aihua turned to glance at Yun Jian. Thinking that she could not gain anything from Yun Jian anyway, who cared what kind of director of new crew she was, Ma Aihua scolded Yun Jian again in Longmen City's local language. So arrogant. If you have the ability, why did you join a killing organization? You're so vicious at such a young age. When you grow up, don't become a murderer and be sent to the police station. Since she had already given up, Ma Aihua might as well make her words even harsher. In the past, when she met her cousin, Zhang Meihua, every year she would proudly show off. This was because Ma Aihua's descendants earned more money than Zhang Meihua's descendants and were better at studying. In the end, he did not expect Yun Jian to appear. Now, he could not show off during the new year. He was not happy at all. Oh dear, cousin, what do you mean? What did my granddaughter do to you that you have to talk about her like this? Zhang Meihua had always been outshone by Ma Aihua every year. Now, that Ma Aihua was talking about Yun Jian like this, she was the first to object as she retorted. On the surface, she was helping Yun Jian to fight back. In fact, if Yun Jian did not have such achievements, Zhang Meihua would not have spoken up for Yun Jian. Cousin Aunt, my grandma's right. Your granddaughter said that she'll only bring me to earn money if I come out of the organization alive. Isn't it obvious that she's unwilling to bring me along? She's afraid that I'll steal her money because I'm too powerful. Assassin organization? Who knows if I'll really stab someone to death one day and be sent to the police station to spend my next life in jail. Zhang Xuani flicked her chestnut hair that fell over her shoulders and glanced at Zhang Meihua. It was only then that she turned to look at Yun Jian. To her horror, she realized that Yun Jian was already holding a shiny silver pistol in her hand. While everyone was still in shock, Yun Jian twirled the silver pistol in her hand skillfully. She pointed the pistol's muzzle at Zhang Xuani and Ma Aihua right under their noses and gave them a cold curl. In an instant, the words that made everyone lose their composure were blurted out to Zhang Xuani and Ma Aihua. You could try. After I kill all of you, who in Longmen City, Zhe Province, or even Country Z would have the guts to send me to prison. M. Chapter 2500, page 1/1. No one in Longmen City, Zhe Province, or even the entire country had the guts to do so. To send her to prison. Who would have the guts to send her to prison? Not to mention Z country, even internationally? Yun Jian's words were arrogant to the extreme. Her brazen words, coupled with her undeniable tone, and the silver pistol in Yun Jian's hand. Everyone present felt like they had been shot and were facing death. The wrinkles on Ma Aihua's old, ugly, and yellow face were crumpled like a piece of yellow paper that was crumpled into a ball due to the shock of Yun Jian's action of taking out the gun. It was even uglier than the crumpled yellow paper. That's a gun. That's a gun. Grandma, that's a gun. When Zhang Xuani saw the toy in Yun Jian's hand, her expression changed drastically. She grabbed Ma Aihua's hand tightly, squatted down, and hid behind Ma Aihua. Ma Aihua was scared to death as well. Her pale face scrunched up as she shouted, "Who's her mother? Don't you care about this child? Don't you shoot." Qin Yiru and Gejun Jian stood aside and watched Ma Aihua's shameless act. "Bah, who told you to spout nonsense? I think you should take back these New Year's gifts too. Don't come again." Zhang Meihua found a chance to vent her anger. She ran into the house and took out the New Year's gift from Ma Aihua, a small bottle of the cheapest oil in the supermarket and a carton of milk from an inferior brand, and tossed them in front of Ma Aihua and Zhang Xuani. Take it. Don't come again." Zhang Meihua tossed the cheap gift back to Ma Aihua and Zhang Xuani. After tossing the gifts to Ma Aihua and Zhang Xuani, Zhang Meihua's anger was vented. Although there were many relatives around, it was obvious that Ma Aihua and Zhang Xuani were the ones who got into trouble first. Instead of calling it a New Year's greeting every year, it was more like Ma Aihua came to her door with cheap gifts to show off in front of Zhang Meihua. Zhang Meihua could not stand her boastful tone and wished she could embarrass Ma Aihua right there and then. Now, the opportunity had presented itself. "Xuani, go get your dad. Let's go. Ma Aihua stepped back, stretched out her hand, and pushed Zhang Xuani. Her own people were the first to leave, and she ran away like a wisp of smoke. He looked like he was afraid that he would be shot to death by the gun in Yun Jian's hand if he was one step slower. Zhang Xuani was also afraid. She chased after Ma Aihua and only shouted to her father, who was still standing in the room, "Dad, let's go." Then she avoided the place as if avoiding the plague. After Zhang Meihua ran away, the rest of Zhang Meihua's relatives and friends were still looking at the gun in Yun Jian's hand in fear. They did not know whether to run or not. Just as everyone's hearts were tensed up and they were scared to the extreme, they even imagined that Yun Jian would lose control of the gun in her hand and accidentally shoot them. Yun Jian suddenly threw the silver gun into the air. Everyone's emotions reached a climax at this moment. Yun Jian, on the other hand, looked straight ahead. She did not even look at the silver gun that was thrown into the air. She reached out and caught the gun steadily. Then, she revealed a harmless and shy smile in front of everyone. It was as if the murderous girl, just now, was not herself. She raised the gun and said expressionlessly, "This is a toy gun." Everyone was speechless. Translator, Atlas Studios editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2501. The toy gun was Siyi's toy for the little one to play with, and Yun Jian had scooped it up in passing. At that time, everyone was in a daze. Ma Aihua and Zhang Xuani had been scared away by a toy gun that had no lethality. At this moment, a black line appeared before everyone's eyes. If nothing went wrong, There would be news after the new year that Ma Aihua and Zhang Shuani were scared away by Zhang Meihua's granddaughter's toy gun. It would even be treated as a joke. However, these were matters for the future. After paying New Year's greetings to her relatives in Xinjiang town, she returned to Longmen City. Qin Yiru did not have many relatives, and some distant relatives had already cut off contact with each other. Therefore, she went back to Longmen City after paying New Year's greetings to the few families she was in contact with. At night, Qin Yiru made handmade dumplings. She kneaded the dough and rolled it into a big and thin round surface with a tool before printing it into small dumpling wrappers. All of these were handmade by Qin Yiru. Yunjian went over to help along the way. You have to make the dumplings like this. Wrap them in diagonally. You have to wrap them tightly when you wrap them diagonally. Otherwise, when you cook the dumplings later, the wrappers won't stick together and the fillings in the wrappers will be a mess. Qin Yiru demonstrated as she patiently taught Yunjian how to make dumplings. It was a pity that making dumplings was a profound knowledge to Yunjian. The dumplings she made were either crooked or scattered. Before she could pick them up, the celery, tofu, and meat filling had already spilled out. It's okay, I'll fix them for you. Qin Yiru turned her head away and stifled a chuckle. She then turned back to take the unshaped dumplings that Yunjian had made and helped Yunjian fix the shape of the dumplings. Although the dumplings that Qin Yiru had fixed looked much better than those made by Yunjian herself, they were still rather ugly. At least they could be cooked in the pot. Ce and Good Junjian were sitting on the sofa in the living room. In front of the sofa in the living room, there was a color TV. At this moment, the TV was playing a movie about special forces. There were many foam mats on the floor between the sofa and the color TV. Xiao Yunju, Duan Li, Duanya, Qin Yiru, and Gu Yunjian's babies, as well as the little fellow and the little girl, were all sitting on the foam mats. Except for Xiao Yunju and the other two, the other children were crawling around on the foam mats. At this moment, Yunjian came out of the kitchen with the dumplings she had made. She originally wanted to give the dumplings to the little fellow and the little girl, but she didn't expect that Ce would reach out and snatch them away. I made it. It doesn't taste good. Yunjian pursed her red lips. After Qin Yiru helped to cook the dumplings, the skin of the dumplings still fell apart, and the fillings were all messed up. They were cooked until they were tasteless. Coincidentally, at the little fellow and the little girl's age, they should eat chopped things. Yunjian's dumplings were just right. Therefore, Yunjian took them and gave them to the little fellow and the little girl. She didn't expect that Ce would snatch them away. Delicious. After a while, Ce finished all the dumplings in the bowl, including the fillings and soup. Yunjian pursed her lips and ignored Ce. She walked over and picked up the little fellow and the little girl who were rolling on the ground. She brought them back to the bedroom to breastfeed the two children. Although the little fellow and the little girl could eat some more fragmented food, the source of nutrition was still breast milk. After breastfeeding, the two children fell asleep unknowingly. Yunjian just put on her clothes and walked out of the house. Just as she walked out of the house, she was stopped halfway by Ce. "They're asleep," Yunjian said to Ce. Ce responded but didn't give way. She stared straight at her. Yunjian understood Ce. She quickly realized that Ce was staring at the place where she breastfed the two children just now because she wanted to. Chapter 2502, page 1/1. In the end, Yunjian fulfilled Ce's perverted request. When they went downstairs again and reached the staircase, Yunjian tugged at her clothes on purpose, afraid that someone would notice something fishy. Ce, on the other hand, had a hand in his pocket as if nothing had happened as he held Yunjian's hand and went downstairs. He looked like he was afraid that others would not know what an embarrassing thing he had done just now. Beneath that handsome face that was enough to provoke people to beat him up and anger both men and gods alike, the curve of his handsome face rose, and a satisfied smile appeared. "Xiao Jian, are Yuan and Mingyu asleep?" Qin Yiru asked Yunjian as she cleared the dishes. They're asleep." Yunjian nodded. I'll sleep with the kids after I clear the dishes. I've left the dumplings in the pot for you guys. They're still warm. Go eat them. They won't taste good when they get cold, Qin Yuru said. Yin Jin nodded and went into the kitchen with Ce to scoop the dumplings that Qin Yuru had left in the pot. Other than Qin Yuru's house, Qin Yu's house was lively as well. Yun Yi was currently in Qin Yu's house with a scarf wrapped around his chest as he washed the dishes by the kitchen sink. Beat him up, scumbag. I'll give you a box of my latest drug. It won't hurt. I'll send you to hell with one bite. Yun Yi was washing the bowls and chopsticks from the candlelight dinner he and Qin Yu were having tonight when he turned to see Qin Yu, who was sitting on the sofa in the living room, hugging a teddy bear and whacking it while watching the cliched romance movie on the TV angrily. He smiled knowingly as his tall frame stood in front of the kitchen sink to wash the bowls and chopsticks skillfully. Yun Yi had been staying at Qin Yu's house for the past 2 days, spending time alone with her. If he were to ask where Gun Yinji, Lung Mei, and the others had gone, of course, it was because they had been chased away by Yun Yi. It was New Year's Eve. He could not let these eyesores disrupt his great opportunity to be alone with his Qin Yu. Blood Doll Organization. The leader of the Blood Doll, Di Lin, was sleeping on his bed. He was reading the international news with a newspaper in his hand. Outside the Blood Doll Organization, Lung Mei rushed in angrily. Lung Mei, why are you back? Rua Yin, who was also known as the sharpshooter of Blood Doll, asked when she saw Lung Mei. Lung Mei had a fight with Di Lin some time ago, so she went to Qin Yu's house in a huff. When she left, Lung Mei roared, I'm never coming back. I don't want to see that idiot Di Lin again. Who would have thought that Lung Mei would come back? How dare that guy chase me away and threaten me with Sister Jian? So what if he's Sister Jian's brother? I'm going to kill him next time. Lung Mei clenched her fists and spat viciously. Just as she finished speaking, Lung Mei suddenly moved closer to Ruo Yin's ear and asked, Ruo Yin, where's the leader? In the bedroom, Di Lin put down the newspaper in his hand and was about to get out of bed. The door was suddenly opened. Rubbing his head, Di Lin thought that it was his subordinate who came to deliver supper to him. So he said, put it at the door. He did not do anything the last time, and Lung Mei was already pissed. She shouted angrily, I'm never coming back. I don't want to see that idiot Di Lin anymore. I'll fight you if you dare look for me. And ran away. Di Lin still did not know what he had done wrong. Rubbing his head, Di Lin had just closed his eyes when he opened them again. The person who opened the door suddenly came in and locked the door. The door to the east and west room. Didn't you hear? Just as Di Lin raised his voice and poked his head out in annoyance. He saw Lung Mei taking off her jacket seductively. She was wearing a sexy red dress under the coat. She wore nothing underneath. She tugged at the red dress and put her hand to her red lips in a seductive gesture as she walked over barefooted. Di Lin was mesmerized. Just as Di Lin was mesmerized, Lung Mei flipped over and sat seductively on Di Lin with the blanket between them. Leader, I missed you so much. Translator, Henyi Translations Editor, Henyi Translations. Chapter 25:03. Lung Mei reached out a finger and gently tapped Di Lin's chest. She pushed Di Lin, who was sitting on the bed, onto the bed. Lung Mei was rather proactive, but she was unusually proactive today. Did she not say that she never wanted to see him again? Di Lin knew that Lung Mei would come back, or he would have gone to her long ago. He was not used to Lung Mei's initiative. Di Lin grabbed Lung Mei's wrist. His pale and handsome face couldn't help but ask, Where did you go? The pleasant atmosphere was ruined by Di Lin just like that. Lung Mei's face darkened as she flipped off Di Lin to sleep on the other side of the double bed with a pout. How boring. As she spoke, she leaned over and rested a hand on the blanket to take the glass of water that Di Lin had just drunk from on the bedside table and took a few gulps. I'm so pissed. I didn't even get a sip of water when I was chased out in the wee hours of the morning yesterday. Chief's the best. I don't have to worry about food and clothing here. Lung Mei placed the empty glass of water on the bedside table. Her entire body was paralyzed and stretched out like the Chinese character, occupying the entire bed. An arm and a leg were propped on Di Lin with the blanket between them. Hey, I'm exhausted from the flight the whole night. Let me rest for a bit. Lung Mei closed her eyes as she spoke, planning to sleep for real. Before she could doze off, however, Di Lin grabbed her wrist. Running away after flirting? There's no such thing in this world. Di Lin flipped over and pinned Lung Mei, who was wearing nothing but a red veil underneath. Chief, what are you doing? So softer. The night was long. Zhe Province's Longmen City. When it was midnight, Yun Jian left the warm bed and left the children to see Yi's care before she got up and walked out. Once she was out of the woods, Yun Jian flashed to a garden not far away from the mansion. Snake. Lizard was standing there with her arms behind her back. Hearing the sound, Snake. Lizard turned to Yun Jian. Sister Jian. Yes. Yun Jian nodded and asked, have you prepared the details of the shareholders of the International Intelligence Platform Center who refused to withdraw their embezzlement from the Kosha mercenaries? Previously, at the International Intelligence Platform Center, Yun Jian had used Diani's hand to demonstrate to the big shots of the International Intelligence Platform Center. The Kosha mercenaries' intelligence unit had always been suppressed by the International Intelligence Platform. If the forces behind Diani's intelligence team were not the Kosha mercenaries, those old bastards would have been even more ruthless. Some time ago, the chairman of the International Intelligence Platform Center had called for an emergency shareholders meeting to immediately withdraw the embezzlement of the Kosha mercenaries' intelligence team. However, some stubborn shareholders refused to do so. Yun Jian planned to make those old men pay the price today. The stubborn shareholders refused to back down because they thought that slaying God would never interfere in this matter. Otherwise, what would he be doing? In this world, there are always some people who held onto a fluke mentality, thinking that their luck wouldn't be so bad. It's ready. It's all here. Snake. Lizard passed a stack of documents to Yun Jian. By then, Yun Jian had removed her jacket to reveal the tight-fitting outfit she was used to wearing when she went on missions in her previous life. After equipping herself with the weapon Snake, Lizard had passed to her. Yun Jian raised her hand to wipe her red lips. Her other hand was toying with the Beretta M92F silence pistol. She narrowed her eyes and looked into the distance through the gun's aiming line. At the same time, she spoke calmly, but the words that could change the outcome of the world. Go to the International Secret Agent Assassin website and spread the word immediately. I, slaying God, will return to the International Secret Agent Assassin Circle to carry out missions. M. Chapter 2504. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Page 1/1. Since her rebirth, Yun Jian had been roaming the world's pinnacle as slaying God, but she had never accepted a mission with a high reward from an international assassin website. In other words, although Yun Jian had always been around, the 1027 assassination missions she completed and the 109 assassin organizations she annihilated were all completed before her rebirth. Since she did not accept any missions from the International Secret Agent Killer website, it meant that as slaying God, all the records that were recorded in her files were completed by her a few years ago. In the years that followed, slaying God had never accepted a single bounty mission. She could be considered as having retired from the International Assassin Circle. To put it simply, she would not accept the mission no matter how much money she was offered. Slaying God had retired for many years. Letting Snake. Lizard say this meant that Yun Jian was returning to the Assassin Circle to carry out missions again. Yes, Sister Jian. Snake. Lizard answered loudly when she heard Yun Jian. After Yun Jian was done preparing all her equipment, a pair of sunglasses appeared with a flick of her wrist. She put them on gently. Get ready to go. After putting the sunglasses on, Yun Jian walked to the Ferrari sports car not far away and pulled open the door to the driver's seat to get in easily. Snake. Lizard followed Yun Jian to the front passenger seat of the Ferrari sports car. The fiery red LaFerrari sped away like a flash of lightning. As the shareholders of the International Intelligence Platform Center, they had offended many people on a daily basis. There were plenty of people on the International Assassin website who wanted to eliminate the shareholders with a hefty reward. In spite of it, there were very few assassins and secret agents who were capable of taking on the task of assassinating the shareholders of the International Intelligence Platform Center. Screech! The sports car sped along the highway at lightning speed. Occasionally, when they passed by a bend, the reflection of Yun Jian's red lips could be seen in the rearview mirror. Slaying God had accepted the hefty reward for the shareholders of the International Intelligence Platform Center. There was an unspoken rule when Slaying God went on a mission. Basically, assassins and special agents would kill their targets without anyone knowing when they went on a mission. On the other hand, Slaying God never hid when she went on a mission. On the other hand, she would send an assassination notice to the target in advance. Tell him in advance that I'm coming to kill him. The real reason why the international bigwigs, businessmen, and politicians were afraid of Slaying God was that even after Slaying God had sent them the assassination notice and told them to be prepared for the nets above, snares below, it was futile. This was the most frightening part. International Intelligence Platform Center, conference room. What's going on? Slaying God is really going to attack us. A short and plump middle-aged man stood up, trembling. He looked at the director of the International Intelligence Platform in the middle of the room, holding an assassination notice written by Slaying God. Slaying God, who hasn't been on a mission for years. How could this be? How could this be? Director, I don't want to die. I don't want to. Director, let's revoke the deduction of the Kosha Mercenaries Intelligence Unit. We don't want that money anymore. I beg you to save us. Save us. Another shareholder who was doing well in the business world also held an assassination notice in his hand. He was so frightened that he fell to the ground, trembling uncontrollably. The director sitting at the top frowned and suddenly opened his eyes. He looked at the shareholders who had received the assassination notice with a gloomy expression. You didn't listen to me when I asked you to revoke the deduction of the Kosha Mercenaries Intelligence Unit. It's too late to revoke the deduction now. Don't you know that ever since Slaying God debuted, she sent out 1,027 assassination notices? None of the targets have lived past the second day. Top reading website, M. Chapter 2505. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation, page 1/1. The director of the International Intelligence Platform Center had foresight. Not only did he revoke the deduction of his shares from the Kosha Mercenaries Intelligence Team, but he had also gone to the Kosha Mercenaries to ask for punishment. There was a director and 10 shareholders present. There were 4 shareholders who revoked the deduction of the Kosha Mercenaries Intelligence Team. Other than the director and the 4 shareholders, the other 6 shareholders had received the assassination notice from Slaying God. Everyone knew that Slaying God had carried out 1027 assassination missions and had also issued 1027 assassination notices. Receiving the assassination notice from Slaying God was equivalent to having 1 foot in a coffin. Before this, no one in the world could escape from Slaying God's assassination. Director, we know we're wrong. I can give all my shares in the company to Slaying God. I don't want any of my family assets. Please help me. I don't want to die. The short and fat middle-aged man was paralyzed on the ground. He looked ahead blankly, then suddenly crawled toward the director's seat in a dog-like manner. He reached out and grabbed the director's trousers. His hands were shaking more violently than a spring. Fear, terror, and all sorts of emotions were mixed in the short and fat middle-aged man's eyes. What were you doing earlier? If you'd listened to me and revoked the deduction, this wouldn't have happened. The director yelled. We thought that Slaying God wouldn't return. Director, I beg you to save me. As long as you save me, I will give you all my shares. The director blinked at the short and fat middle-aged man's words. The director waved his hand. Fine. I'll contact the Interpol team for you. I happen to know a very powerful person in there. But whether you can survive Slaying God's attack will depend on your luck. In Country M, in a large villa in the suburbs some distance away from the International Intelligence Platform Center. This villa was the home of the Interpol team's captain, Bernie Austin, whom the director of the International Intelligence Platform Center knew. Bernie Austin, or Bernie for short. A foreigner's name was usually followed by his surname, which was why Bernie was his given name. Bernie knew the director of the International Intelligence Platform Center and had been entrusted with it. Therefore, he had his house surrounded. There were many traps in Bernie's house, in addition to the patrols and special forces patrolling nearby. Even a fly could not sneak in. The 6 shareholders of the International Intelligence Platform Center, who had received Slaying God's assassination notice, were placed in the living room of Bernie's house. Bernie entered the house after he was done patrolling. He stood translation. He said to the 6 shareholders, "Everything seems normal for now. Stay where you are and don't go to the washroom. Don't go to the toilet alone." The 6 shareholders nodded immediately. When Bernie was young, about 20 years ago, he had successfully saved a target who had received an assassination notice from one of the top assassins on the international assassin list. Bernie, together with the Barnet police force, it was not a joke, it was a very powerful force. That was why the 6 shareholders breathed a sigh of relief. Their tense hearts were finally relieved. At that moment, one of Bernie's direct relatives, a young lady in her 20s, who was sitting on the sofa, asked Bernie in a questioning tone, "Uncle, is slaying God really that powerful that you and so many outstanding elites have to fight her?" This young woman was Bernie's niece. Her name was Bailey Austin. Beryl had been spoiled since she was young. She had always admired her uncle, Bernie. She even thought that her uncle was the most powerful person in the world. That was why she said that. After Beryl finished speaking, Bernie rubbed his forehead and solemnly said to Beryl, "Don't worry. She's more than powerful. Today, I've mobilized members from 3 Interpol teams, and they're the most outstanding members of my Interpol team. It's still unknown if they can hold slaying God off for 10 minutes. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Chapter 2506. Beryl shrieked at Bernie's words. "Uncle, how powerful is your criminal police force? Can't you fight her alone?" Beryl was in disbelief. Bernie sighed, shook his head, and didn't say anything else. The director of the International Intelligence Platform walked into the villa. "Old Bernie, how's it going?" the director asked worriedly. "There's no news about her at the moment. Both inside and outside of my villa, even the blind spots nearby, are filled with surveillance cameras. Unless slaying God came down from the sky, no matter how capable she is, she'll definitely be discovered by my men before she enters the living room." Bernie was very confident about that. On the roof of Bernie's villa, a petite silhouette hopped down from a height of a few thousand meters in a helicopter. The petite silhouette grasped the wind speed, humidity, and any other factors and conditions that would affect the accuracy of her landing. Within 5 seconds of landing, he opened his parachute and landed on the roof of Bernie's villa with a precise position. After landing on the roof, Yun Jian kept her parachute as fast as she could. She moved soundlessly and stuck herself to the wall of the villa. There was only one SWAT officer patrolling under the villa's roof. When Yun Jian landed earlier, she had timed it perfectly. The moment she landed and stuck herself to the wall, the SWAT officer happened to walk to the side. Yun Jian's figure that flashed past was the SWAT officer's blind spot. As expected, Bernie was not a simple person. It was almost unheard of for someone to sneak in from the sky. However, for safety's sake, Bernie still sent a SWAT officer to patrol the villa's roof. Yun Jian stuck close to the wall and followed the SWAT officer around the cover. Just when the SWAT officer walked to a spot where the SWAT officers patrolling under the villa could not see, Yun Jian silently rolled toward the SWAT officer. She placed her hand on his head swiftly like an eagle's claw, while her other hand covered his mouth from behind. Within a second, Yun Jian's hand slid from the top of his head to his neck and snapped his neck. Dragging him to a dark place, Yun Jian leaned against the corner of the wall to hear the sound from the stairs. After confirming that there was no one around, Yunjin held onto the wall with one hand and hung her body in the air by the window under the eaves. Her other hand unlocked the window at lightning speed and flipped through the window. Yunjin's action just now would have been discovered by the special police patrolling below if they had heard the rustling of leaves in the wind. However, at this moment, no one heard a sound. In the living room of the villa, Bernie is still standing here. Suddenly, the police officer's voice was heard from outside the house. "I had slain God. Slain God was here. Slain God has been found." Hearing this, Bernie turned around and told the 6 shareholders, "Stay here and don't move." He held his pistol and rushed out of his villa as fast as he could. "Captain, it wasn't slaying God. Go back quickly. We've fallen into a trap." Just as he rushed to the scene where the voice came from, the shouting SWAT officer was holding a butterfly knife in his hand as he screamed with his eyes wide open. Bernie roared and ran back to the living room as fast as he could. He saw his niece Burial and the director of the International Intelligence Platform Center lying on the ground, paralyzed and trembling in fear. The 6 targets of slaying God, the 6 shareholders of the International Intelligence Platform Center, were lying in a pool of blood. Their eyes were wide open as they died with everlasting regret. There was a piece of white paper with words written on it on the wooden table. The paper was pinned to the table by a dagger. Bernie's heart skipped a beat. He walked forward quickly and saw the words written in red ink on the white paper. The words were written in a carefree manner, but they gave off a sense of terror. "Target killed, handwritten by slaying God. M." Chapter 2507. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Page 1/1. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. He had heard of slaying God's method of completing missions and that ordinary people could not even see her shadow. Initially, Bernie thought that he would be able to face slaying God head-on after so much planning. Even if he could not defeat her, he would at least be able to hold her back for 10 minutes. What Bernie did not expect was that he would be utterly defeated by slaying God. Forget 10 minutes, it was not even a second. He could not even see slaying God's shadow. When his underling shouted, "Slaying God is here," Bernie did not even have the time to check before dashing out. Moreover, unless slaying God had really descended from the sky. Otherwise, no matter how powerful she was, she could only attack from outside the door. That was also the reason why Bernie, the captain of the International Police Force, fell for her trick. Not only was slaying God powerful, but she also knew how to read people's minds. From a moment she created the illusion that she had snuck in from outside, she had already guessed that Bernie would definitely dash out of the house based on his personality. "Did you see slaying God just now?" Bernie raised his voice and looked at his niece Beryl and the director, who were huddled on the ground in fear. "And no, I didn't see them. T-Uncle and the rest died suddenly. It was just a blink of an eye. When I opened my eyes, they were dead. They were dead." Sob. Beryl hugged her body tightly in fear as she shuddered. There was a hint of sobbing in her voice. She was so frightened that she had lost all feeling in her body. "What about this flying dagger? Where did it come from?" Belle asked before Beryl could finish her sobbing. I saw it. The staircase. It came from upstairs." The director pointed at the top of the stairs with a trembling finger. Using all the strength he had left in his life, he uttered the words that scared him out of his wits. "The staircase, upstairs in the sky, in the sky. She came from a sky." Bernie was suddenly enlightened. He held his pistol and rushed out of the villa, only to see the girl in the sky holding the rope hanging from the helicopter with one hand. He couldn't see her face clearly because she was wearing a pair of sunglasses. Grabbing the rope that hung down from the helicopter with one hand, Yunjin, who was hoisted higher, was not at all afraid. With a touch of her red lips, she flashed a taunting grin at Bernie. In the next second, he grabbed the rope with his other hand and quickly climbed from the bottom of the rope to the top of the rope. With a simple somersault, the helicopter was already a few hundred meters above the ground. He took advantage of the momentum and somersaulted into the helicopter. His movements were extremely smooth, so relaxed that it was unbelievable that a person could do it. Bernie shuddered violently. She watched as Yunjian left, but there was nothing she could do. The next day, international news agencies of all sizes spread the news. Slaying God, the #1 on the international secret agent ranking, had returned. She had returned and killed the 6 shareholders of the International Intelligence Platform Center who had maliciously embezzled the Kosha mercenaries intelligence team. As soon as the news came out, it instantly replaced the media's reports on the celebrities in the entertainment industry. Everyone turned their attention to this matter. In the next few months, all the companies and enterprises that had embezzled the Kosha mercenaries' foreign cooperation projects returned all the embezzled funds to the Kosha mercenaries. Some companies and enterprises even returned the embezzled funds to the Kosha mercenaries after hearing the news. They even offered hundreds of millions of USD in cash to show their sincerity. Just like the directors of the International Intelligence Platform Center, they took the initiative to apologize. Slaying God's name swept through all the major international news media. Even all the programs that reported on the entertainment industry were taken off the air and switched to Slaying God's program. At this moment, Yun Jian, who had caused a global storm, was sitting in a coffee shop in River City's university town. Outside the coffee shop, Mo Buffon and the rest from the martial arts club who had just reported to the university received the news of Yun Jian's return. They seemed to have gathered for a gang fight. Under the attention of passers-by, they rushed into the coffee shop and rushed to Yun Jian. "President, you're finally back." Top reading website, M. Chapter 2508. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Page 1/1. It had been 15 or 16 days since the first day of a new year, and since that incident had happened. It was time for the students to return to school. There were more than 10 universities in Jiangxing University City. The university students here generally started school early. Jiangxing City of the province paid more attention to academics, so the school started school early. The winter and summer holidays were very late. Of course, this was not a good thing for the students. At that time, Mo Buffon led a group of people into the coffee shop as if they were going to fight. They surrounded Yun Jian. Yun Jian held a cup of coffee in her hand and tasted it carefully. She did not turn to look at Mo Buffon and the others. "How was last year's martial arts competition?" she asked casually. Yun Jian had taken a leave of absence a year ago. At that time, the martial arts club was about to hold a martial arts competition. Before leaving, Yun Jian had trained Mo Buffon and the other members of the martial arts club. Of course, it was a complete victory. "President, you don't know, but after our martial arts club won a complete victory last year, we represented all the universities in Jiangxing City and participated in the provincial martial arts competition. We also got in the top 3. If nothing goes wrong, the school will arrange for us to represent your province in the national competition in the next few days. Since you're back, President, you should participate with us." Before Mo Buffon could speak, Zhou Huntao spoke first from Yun Jian. "I won't participate." Yun Jian pursed her red lips. After speaking, Yun Jian handed an invitation to Mo Buffon and the others one by one. Then, she stood up and said to them, "On April 1st, I will hold an engagement party at Hubble Island. There will be a car to pick you up. This is the invitation." This invitation was made recently. Yun Jian had already sent out invitations to many people. The 1st of April was Yun Jian's birthday. It could be translated as CE without the intonation. Perhaps it was fate for her to be with CE. "Yes, President. An engagement party at Hubble Island." Hubble Island was voted as the world's sexiest beach by Country M's Newsweek. Along the beach, there was a luxurious resort consisting of 25 colorful villas. And Hubble Island is most famous for its pink beach. Other beaches are yellow, but Hubble Island's beach is pink. It's made of real pink sand. "This is King romantic," Zhou Huntao said to Yun Jian with admiration. Yun Jian pursed her lips and said to them, "Remember, on the night of March 31st, there will be a special car to take you to Hubble Island. Okay, even if he forgot to take a dump, he would not miss such a good opportunity. A free vacation on Hubble Island, huh? Zhou Huntao laughed wretchedly. All right, wipe your saliva. As an educated young master, Mo Buffon couldn't stand it any longer. He took a tissue and handed it to Zhou Huntao. Hearing this, the rest of the martial arts clubs burst into laughter. It was almost the middle of February, and there was still about a month and a half before the engagement party. Less than a week after Zhou Huntao invited Yun Jian to participate in the national martial arts competition with them, the school sent a notice to Zhou Huntao, Mo Buffon, and the others to pack their luggage overnight and rush to the national martial arts competition. Because they were notified in advance, they were not in a hurry. Although Yun Jian did not participate, she was invited by Mo Buffon and the others to watch the competition. This time, the venue of the competition was in Liao Province. Liao Province was not close to Zhe Province, so they took a train for nearly 20 hours to get there. The winter in Liao Province was much colder than Zhe Province. That was the north, so it was naturally incomparable to the south of Zhe Province. After arriving at the venue of the competition in Liao Province, Mo Buffon and the others planned to familiarize themselves with the competition venue. It's the people from the shrine, hey. Just after Mo Buffon and the others arrived, a group of members who also carried the signboard of the martial arts club walked over from the opposite side and greeted Mo Buffon and the others. This group of people was also from a martial arts club. They were the martial arts clubs sent by Zhe Province to participate in the National Martial Arts Club. Other than the martial arts club formed by Mo Buffon and his group, who were in the top 3 of the provincial competition, the other martial arts clubs formed by the top 3 of the provincial competition. Shrine was the name that Yun Jian came up with for the club. This group of people was the second-place martial arts club in the provincial competition, the Combat Society. The captain of the Combat Society was a chubby man named Diao Xiaozhan. Diao Xiaozhan's nickname was very interesting. His companions all called him Principal Diao. It could be understood as running around with the principal in his mouth. At that time, Diao Xiaozhan walked over and high-fived Mo Buffon. He glanced around and saw Yun Jian, who had not appeared in the previous competition. He asked Mo Buffon in surprise, Mo Buffon, is this your little girlfriend? After Mo Buffon heard this, he quickly shook his head and then said something that shocked Diao Xiaozhan and the others. She's the one I told you about, the strongest president of our martial arts club. Top reading website, M. Chapter 2509. She's the president of your martial arts club? The one you told us about during the provincial competition last time. The valiant female president who kicked the door of the club that bullied you in order to avenge you? Diao Xiaozhan was stunned after hearing Mo Buffon's words. Then he spoke in a daze. After that, Diao Xiaozhan touched his nose and looked at Yun Jian's thin and weak body with a surprised expression. From your previous description, I thought she was a valiant and burly girl. I didn't expect her to be... Huh, you really can't judge a book by its cover. Come. We're all friends. We haven't gathered for a while since the provincial competition. There's someone selling grilled sausages outside the arena. I'll stop him and let's have a small meal first. Because we have to gather later, it's not good to run far. Let's go to the restaurant in the evening. I'll treat you guys to a meal. Diao Xiaozhan didn't say much about Yun Jian. He was also a relatively bold fatty. After saying this, he ran out to stop the old lady who was selling grilled sausages. After a while, Diao Xiaozhan ran back with a lot of grilled sausages in his hands. Come. I'll treat you guys. Yun Jian didn't argue and took the grilled sausages. At this time, Diao Xiaozhan and Mo Buffon were talking like old friends. In fact, Diao Xiaozhan and Mo Buffon only met once during the provincial competition last time. However, some people, although they only met once, could be like old friends who had known each other for half their lives. In fact, they were bosom friends, destined to be friends. Hey, it's the Lobster Club from the same province as us. At this time, A girl from the martial arts club saw a group of people walking by not far away and said to everyone, "Hey, you guys are here too." After the girl said this to everyone, she stretched out her hand to greet the people from the lobster club. In this martial arts competition, there were only 3 martial arts clubs from each province that were qualified to participate in the national competition. The top 3 of Zhejiang province's provincial competition last time were all here. The group of people walking by not far away was the lobster club that ranked first in Zhejiang province's provincial competition last time. They were also the champions of Zhejiang province's provincial competition. Logically speaking, when everyone came out to participate in a national competition and met people from the same province, there would always be a sense of closeness. However, the female president of the Lobster Society took the lead and snorted loudly. Then, she turned her head and walked away. The girl's hand stopped in midair, and the air froze. F***CK. How can they bully people like this? How can they? Zhou Huntao was the first to feel displeased. It's okay, it's okay. The girl quickly stopped Zhou Huntao. This girl's name was Yuan Pingping. She was very honest and friendly. Her looks weren't bad either. Although she wasn't a peerless beauty, she was still pleasing to the eye. The president of the Crayfish Society is called Long Xinyan. I heard that she likes to eat crayfish very much, so she named the society this way. The people in her society don't like to talk to people. Mo Buffon explained to Yunjian. Yunjian had never participated in the competition before, so she naturally didn't know anything. Okay. Yunjian nodded. 10 minutes later, all the martial arts clubs were gathered here. They're here! The judges are here! Someone shouted. At this time, a few judges who were dressed very conspicuously entered the venue. The competition wasn't going to be held immediately today, so the judges were here to familiarize themselves. At this time, a few judges entered the venue. When she saw a foreign woman in her 20s, Yunjian narrowed her eyes. This was none other than the niece of the previous Interpol team's captain, Bernie Beryl. However, Yunjian wasn't surprised. This was because Bernie's niece was learning martial arts from Z Country. Yunjian had seen a brief introduction of Beryl in Bernie's detailed information. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The moment Beryl entered, Long Xinyan, the president of the Lobster Society, suddenly raised her voice smugly and spoke to her companions in a boastful tone, flaunting her knowledge. Did you see that? That judge is the niece of the Interpol team's captain. My parents even brought me to her house as a guest before. That's why she knew so much. Did you know that during this period of time, there's a huge uproar about slaying God, the #1 on the international secret agent ranking, returning to the secret agent circle? The first mission she carried out after returning was related to Beryl. Beryl, that's someone who has seen the true face of the #1 on the international secret agent ranking, slaying God. M. Chapter 2510. Long Xinyan spoke very loudly, as if she was afraid that the martial arts club members standing next to her would not be able to hear her. Long Xinyan's Lobster Society was indeed very powerful. As the top martial arts club in Zhe Province's martial arts competition, it was only natural that they were capable. Sister Xinyan, does that mean that you know that judge? He's the judge who saw slaying God's true face. A female member of the Lobster Society looked at Long Xinyan excitedly and asked carefully. Long Xinyan saw that the members of the Shrine and the Combat Society were looking at her not far away. She pursed her lips and said confidently, "Of course." In fact, Long Xinyan had attended a ball held by the Beryl family with her parents a few years ago. She had seen Beryl from afar, just like this time. In reality, she had never had the chance to talk to Beryl. However, this was enough for her to brag in front of her fellow students. Yunjian heard Long Xinyan's boasting, but at that moment, Yunjian was sitting in the empty audience seats. She was watching the martial arts clubs who had gathered to listen to the judge and the organizer speak from a distance away. On the day of a national competition, there would be a live broadcast recording. In other words, Everyone's every move would be shown in front of the national audience, in front of the television. Therefore, the organizers attached great importance to the National Martial Arts Competition this time. The gathering place was the venue of the National Martial Arts Competition. Long Xinyan had just finished bragging when it was Beryl's turn to speak. She cleared her throat with a haughty expression. She spoke in fluent Chinese, a stark contrast to her frightened appearance the other day. She spoke proudly to the crowd. "Hello, everyone. I'm a judge this time, Beryl Austin. You can call me Beryl. Beryl can speak fluent Chinese. Although there are still some English accents in his pronunciation, it is already very impressive to be able to speak Chinese." After the judges had spoken, the organizer said a few more words and dismissed the crowd. After the crowd dispersed, the judges had already left. Seeing that Beryl had left, Long Xinyan boldly boasted, "I heard that Beryl saw slaying God's true face that day." She wasn't even flustered or afraid when she saw slaying God's true face. Rumor has it that slaying God was shocked when she saw Beryl. The more Long Xinyan spoke, the more excited she became. She saw all the members of the shrine and the martial arts society staring at her. That feeling made Long Xinyan feel proud. "Sister Xinyan, you know so much. Quickly tell us, what exactly happened at that time?" The members of the Lobster Society were the most agitated. A large group of people quickly surrounded Long Xinyan. It was as if he could see slaying God's appearance that day from Long Xinyan's words. When Long Xinyan saw that the members of the shrine and the martial arts society were still listening to her, she began to fabricate even more nonsense. Yun Jian ignored her. At that time, Yun Jian received a message from Snake. "Lizard," she told Mo Bufon and the others, "my friend is looking for me. I'm going out for a while." Then, she walked out of the competition venue. Before he walked out of the arena, he bumped into Snake, Lizard, who had just entered. Snake. Lizard was looking for her because she wanted her to sign a return agreement with the International Secret Agent Assassin website. At that moment, Long Xinyan happened to catch a glimpse of Yun Jian and Snake. Lizard meeting. She glanced over in confusion. Seeing that Long Xinyan was looking over there, she stopped telling the story that everyone was very interested in. Everyone turned their heads to look. They saw Yun Jian taking a black pen from Snake. Lizard and signing her name under a thick contract in front of everyone. Looking at the strokes that Yun Jian left behind when she signed her name, it was extremely similar to the name of the person they were discussing at that moment. M. Chapter 25:11. Long Xinyan only glanced at it for a moment before retracting her gaze. Long Xinyan remembered that this girl should be here with the people from the shrine to participate in the competition. She was just an unimportant girl. Long Xinyan did not care about her. "Let's go. It's my treat. I'll take you guys to afternoon tea." At that moment, the chubby Jiao Xiaozhan waved at his club and Yun Jian's club members and walked out of the competition venue. Soon, he came to Yun Jian's side. Although Long Xinyan did not care about Yun Jian, she was still suspicious of the name and Yun Jian's handwriting on the contract, especially a young girl like her. Why would she sign a contract? There must be something wrong. When Long Xinyan walked over with her club members, Mo Bufon, Jiao Xiaozhan, and the others had just arrived at Yun Jian's side and were about to leave the competition venue. At that moment, Yun Jian had just finished signing the contract and put away her pen. Snake. Lizard also took the opportunity to take back the contract. "Hey, wait a minute. The thing you just signed is a contract, right? Can I have a look?" Long Xinyan was interested and reached out to stop Snake. Lizard from taking back the contract. Long Xinyan did not give face to Mo Bufon and Jiao Xiaozhan. However, because of this contract, she felt that Yun Jian was different from Mo Bufon and the others. Therefore, she wanted to get closer to Yun Jian, even if she did not know Yun Jian well. His tone wasn't too bad either. No. Unexpectedly, Yun Jian rejected her. Snake. Lizard was one step ahead of Long Xinyan. She put away the contract and walked out. So be it. Long Xinyan was stunned. Then, she immediately rolled her eyes. At the same time, the corner of her mouth twitched. Long Xinyan's martial arts was indeed recognized as powerful, but she did not know how to behave. Sometimes she even wrote her feelings on her face like an underage girl. Diao Xiaozhan was not stingy with his treat. He directly brought everyone to a crayfish restaurant and ordered 10 plates of crayfish. One had to know that crayfish was very expensive. One plate might cost 2 days of an ordinary person's salary. From this, it could be seen that Diao Xiaozhan clan was definitely well off. Otherwise, he wouldn't have eaten so much. Come, come, come. Everyone, eat quickly. Don't stand on ceremony. Today, I'll treat you all to crayfish. Eat that stupid president of the Crayfish Society. She's so stupid, but she's acting like she's so powerful. Diao Xiaozhan's humorous words made everyone burst into laughter. Yun Jian just pursed her red lips and rested her chin on her hand. Suddenly, her attention was attracted by a baby shop opposite the crayfish restaurant. Next to the signboard of this baby shop, there was a line that said, "Original Draft Design Baby Clothing." Looking through the glass window, the clothes and baby product in the baby shop were all very innovative. Thinking of the two guys at home, Yun Jian stood up and said to everyone, "I'll go take a look." Then she walked out. Just as he reached the entrance, he bumped into Long Xinyan and the others. Long Xinyan liked crayfish the most, which was why she named their martial arts society the Crayfish Society. This crayfish restaurant was the only one nearby that had better decoration and looked cleaner inside and out. Therefore, it wasn't strange to bump into Long Xinyan there. Seeing Yun Jian, Long Xinyan snorted coldly and turned to enter the crayfish restaurant. She found a round table and sat down with the people from her martial arts society. The wall of the crayfish restaurant near the street was made of transparent glass. Therefore, Yun Jian could see the specialty baby shop opposite at a glance. At that time, Long Xinyan sat in front of her seat, feeling depressed. After a while, she raised her head and looked through the glass at Yun Jian, who was crossing the road to cross to the baby shop opposite. Suddenly, from the side, an overweight truck rushed straight towards Yun Jian as if it had been planning for a long time. A female member of the Crayfish Society also saw it and screamed in shock. With this exclamation, everyone's attention was diverted over. At that time, the overweight truck was less than a meter away from Yun Jian. However, just when everyone present thought that Yun Jian would be like a kite with a broken string and be sent flying by the truck, a scene that made everyone's faces turn pale with fright and unforgettable suddenly appeared. Chapter 25:12. It was an overloaded truck that had suddenly charged toward Yun Jian. Without giving Yun Jian even a second to react, the truck was already right in front of Yun Jian. There weren't many such coincidences in the world. Even if someone were to stand up and say that the truck had lost control and that it wasn't a deliberate attempt at murder, the spectators wouldn't believe it. That was because the truck's deliberate attempt at murder was too obvious. However, when the overloaded truck was only half a meter away from Yun Jian, everyone imagined that Yun Jian would be flung dozens of meters away and fall heavily to the ground, her head bleeding and her life in danger. Yun Jian didn't even turn around to face the truck. As though she had a premonition of what was about to happen, she jumped lightly with one leg and placed her right hand on the truck's hood. Just as the truck was about to hit her, she somersaulted and stood on top of the truck's hood. She was just 0.1 seconds away. Based on the truck speed, if Yun Jian had been 0.1 seconds later, the probability of her being seriously injured would have been increased. Furthermore, with that collision, she would have died without a doubt. However, jumping onto the truck's hood wasn't the end of it. After she somersaulted onto the truck's hood, she reacted within 1 second. Then, she jumped lightly onto the truck's roof. After running for 2 steps, she jumped lightly and landed on the ground from the back of the truck. That series of actions sounded easy, but to actually do it was extremely difficult. The truck was still speeding forward, jumping onto the truck's hood, jumping onto the roof, running for a few steps until she reached the back of the truck and landed on the ground. This series of actions not only required consideration of the truck's crazy speed, wind speed, resistance, and other factors, but also the possibility of being flung off by such a fast truck. It was apparent that Yun Jian was so precise that there was not a single mistake, be it in the way she pinpointed or manipulated the various factors. Moreover, she reacted and completed it within 3 seconds. Yes, 3 seconds. Within 3 seconds, Yun Jian completed a series of actions that were almost impossible for ordinary people. He landed steadily on the ground. If it were anyone else, they would have been flung out long ago. Yun Jian, Mo Bufan, and the others were so frightened that their faces turned green. With Mo Bufan taking the lead, they stood up and pushed aside the stool, running out of the crayfish restaurant with their long legs. Mo Bufan and the others did not spend much time with Yun Jian. However, Mo Bufan and the others treated Yun Jian as a true friend, not only because Yun Jian was the president of their martial arts club, but also because she was their friend. They were on the same side. Mo Bufan took large strides. Because he ran too fast, he almost fell. However, he supported himself on the ground and stood up. Ignoring his sprained ankle, he was the first to rush out. Zhou Huntao, Zhou Dun, and other members of Yun Jian's martial arts club also rushed out of the crayfish restaurant crazily. They ran to Yun Jian and asked if she was injured and if she needed to go to the hospital. They were nervous, scared, and terrified because they treated Yun Jian as their best friend. It was a friendship that had nothing to do with love, family, or gender. "I'm fine," Yun Jian said calmly. At this time, the members of the Crayfish Club and the Combat Club also rushed out of the Crayfish restaurant and came to Yun Jian's side. When they saw Yun Jian's extremely calm expression, Long Xinyan, Diao Shuizhan, and the others who were already frightened and terrified of how Yun Jian could be so powerful, were completely stunned. No one was able to recover from Yun Jian's astounding performance for a long time. Chi bang! At this time, the speeding truck suddenly crashed into a building in front of them. The owner of the truck obviously did not get out of the car to call the police. On the contrary, he failed to hit Yun Jian. After hitting the building, he quickly reversed the truck as if he was afraid that Yun Jian would find him, and quickly fled. Yun Jian was not injured, which meant that the driver did not escape. However, he drove away. What he did just now was undoubtedly a premeditated murder. Diao Shuizhan, Long Xinyan, and the others had yet to react. At this time, they were staring at Yun Jian in a daze. They saw Yun Jian watching the entire process of the truck escaping. "Oh my God, you just now, how did you—" Long Xinyan was so frightened by Yun Jian that she stuttered. Before Long Xinyan could finish her sentence, Yun Jian saw that the truck had left her sight. Everyone thought that she would be frightened by the scene just now, but she was not scared at all. Instead, she reached out her hand and calmly took out her phone in front of everyone. She made a call and said something that made everyone's faces turn extremely pale. "Lock onto a truck with license plate Liao B. U3616 on the 1st Street of South Road. I'll give you 1 minute. Before it leaves the 1st Street of South Road, blow it up." You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.